On the first day, I returned to my biological filthy rich family. I was so thrilled I could have licked the toilets clean, 10 times over. Everyone thought I had lost my absolute mind, but in my head there was only one clear thought. Finally, I have an excuse to go completely feral. I didn't Sparta kick my biological sister into the wall, just because she stole our father's watch and tried to frame me for it. I didn't start a casual bonfire in my bedroom just because my so-called parents locked me in a dark, damp storage closet. And ultimately, I didn't livestream myself dumpster diving in our luxury estate just because my parents refused to give me a single cent of pocket money. I did all of this because my past life taught me one crucial lesson. Instead of internalizing the trauma and torturing my own mental health, it's vastly superior to go completely unhinged and make everyone else miserable. At this very moment, my biological father, Arthur Lancaster, was fuming. It was nearly midnight, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs. "Bring my watch out here right now. You're the only one in this house with such sneaky rat-like habits. Before you came back to the Lancaster family, we never lost a single thing. That $1 million Patek Philippe was definitely stolen by you." My second sister, Chloe Lancaster, smirked. Meanwhile, my mother, Evelyn, looked at me with fake gentleness and cooed, "Leo, be a good boy. Just bring your father's watch back. Don't worry, we won't punish you." The fake adopted son, Mason, chimed in with a perfectly crafted mask of concern. "That's right, big brother. We know you've just never seen such an expensive watch before. Just give it back to Dad. We promise we won't blame you." I literally jumped 3 feet into the air, shaking my head so hard my neck nearly snapped. Twisting my face into a mask of pure, unadulterated madness, I turned to the Lancaster family encircling me and screeched, "Who? Who said I stole the watch? Who saw me do it? Step up and face me!" My reaction genuinely spooked the Lancasters, causing them to take a collective step back. Arthur's face turned beet red as he pointed a shaking finger at me. "Leo, you ungrateful brat, do you think playing crazy will get you off the hook? Hand over the watch. Acting like a lunatic in front of me won't work." I completely ignored Arthur. Keeping my face twisted, I howled, "Don't dodge the question. Answer me directly. Who said I stole it? Who saw me?" Chloe looked at me with sheer disgust. "Leo, who else in this house would steal Dad's watch besides you? We all already have Patek Philips, so obviously it's you, the poor little orphan." Hearing that, I teleported right in front of Chloe and delivered 2 crisp, resounding slaps to her face. "Smack! Smack! So it was you, Chloe!" I roared. "You're the one framing me. I'm asking you, with which eye did you see me steal it? When did I steal it? Which hand did I use?" Without giving her a second to breathe, I grabbed Chloe by the shoulders and spun her around a full 360 degrees like a human helicopter. Enduring the shoulder pain, Chloe trembled and shrieked, "Leo, are you psycho? Let me go, you piece of trash." I kept shaking her, screaming back, "Don't dodge the question, Chloe. Your silence is proof you're framing me, you wicked witch." After a few more spins, suddenly, clink! A shiny object flew right out of Chloe's pocket and landed on the floor. Seeing the object, the entire room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. I casually picked up the watch and turned to the stunned Lancaster family. "Is this the stolen watch you were talking about? Wow, what a plot twist. It magically appeared in Chloe's pocket." Arthur finally registered what had happened, his face turning an incredibly ugly shade of purple. Chloe went pale as a ghost. Looking at their expressions, I laughed internally. Just minutes ago, they were ready to crucify me. Now that the stolen goods were literally pulled from their precious daughter's pocket, nobody had a single word to say. Pretending to be utterly shocked, I widened my eyes and held the watch high. "Wait, this is the stolen watch, right? Oh my gosh!" It turns out Chloe is the thief, and she maliciously tried to frame me. "Police. I need to call the police." Arthur's face was now darker than the bottom of a burnt pot. "Call what police?" he barked. "Do you think having a thief in the family is something to be proud of? No police." But I acted like I suddenly went deaf. I grabbed my own hair, bent over backwards, and wailed in absolute agony. "Chloe, you didn't just steal the watch, you framed your own brother. Why would you set me up like this? The betrayal, the heartbreak, I'm in agonizing pain." Before anyone could even process my Oscar-worthy performance, I bolted straight out the front door of the Lancaster mansion. The moment I was outside the gates, I dialed 911. Then, I snapped a quick HD photo of the Patek Philippe and posted it to Twitter Dex with the caption, "Is this the decay of human nature, or the collapse of morality? A millionaire's $500,000 watch was just stolen by his own wealthy daughter. The tea is piping hot." 15 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up outside the gates. I immediately sprinted over to greet them like they were my long-lost best friends. 2 officers stepped out, one veteran officer in his 40s and a rookie in his 20s. "Are you Leo? Did you make the call?" the older officer asked. I put on my most pathetic, tragic face and nodded violently. "Yes, officer, it was me. My father's $500,000 watch was stolen." The veteran officer simply nodded and followed me into the mansion. Inside the living room, Chloe was currently nestled in Evelyn's arms, crying her eyes out. Lily, the eldest sister, and Mason were standing by, gently comforting the victim. Meanwhile, Arthur sat on another sofa, dead silent. Seeing this heartwarming, cozy family portrait made me want to laugh out loud. Did they really think they could just play pretend and sweep this under the rug? Did anyone ask the actual victim, me, for permission? I instantly unleashed a wail that could shatter glass. Father, the police are here. You don't have to be conflicted anymore. Let the law handle this. Justice must be served. After all, Chloe stole your $500,000 watch. My screech echoed through the mansion, freezing the Lancasters in their tracks. When they saw the two officers walking in behind me, their jaws dropped. Mr. Lancaster, please rest assured, the older officer said firmly, standing before Arthur. We will treat this as a high-priority case. Whoever dared to steal your watch will be brought to justice swiftly. Looking at the officer's deadly serious demeanor, Arthur opened his mouth to do damage control, but I brutally cut him off. I grabbed the officer's hand, smiling radiantly. Our city's police force is simply elite. Top-tier efficiency, but guess what? The Lancaster family already caught the culprit. Red-handed. You guys just need to do the paperwork and take her away for interrogation. Without missing a beat, I dragged the officer right next to the trembling Chloe. Officer, it's her! Chloe! She stole my father's watch! I held up the Patek Philippe right in the officer's face. Here is the stolen item. The culprit and the evidence are both here. Please, unleash the hammer of justice. Cuff her and bag the evidence. The officer looked at the shivering Chloe, then at the watch, and sighed. Ah, an inside job. Chloe, absolutely terrified, clung to Evelyn and shrieked, I'm not a thief, it was just a prank. Mom, tell him it was just a prank. Before Evelyn could even formulate a lie, I shoved the watch closer to Chloe's face and yelled, You're not just a thief, you're a toxic mastermind who tried to frame me. Arthur finally exploded, unable to take it anymore. He forced a painfully awkward smile at the cops. Officers, this is just a massive misunderstanding. The kids were just pulling a prank on each other. I'm so sorry for wasting your time. Evelyn chimed in, hugging Chloe tight. Exactly, Leo, it was just a joke. Don't be so petty. Lillian Mason immediately played the chorus. Yeah, just a harmless joke. Seeing this united family front, I dramatically clutched my chest, threw myself onto the living room floor, and started barrel rolling. This world is too cruel. I don't want to live on this planet anymore, I wailed. I, Leo, grew up in an orphanage. You guys always looked down on me. Now Chloe frames me, and you all turn a blind eye? My heart is shattered into a million pieces. Life has no meaning. Rolling right to the veteran officer's boots, I looked up with tear-filled eyes. Officer, please, just arrest me. Take me away. This mansion is too cold. I want to go to jail. Jail has to be warmer than the Lancaster family. The older officer looked down at me, sighed heavily, and looked at Arthur. Mr. Lancaster, I might be an outsider, but I have to say this. Parenting requires fairness. Arthur's face turned pitch black. He gritted his teeth and looked at the cops. Officers, please leave. Everything is fine here. Thank you. But the watch is mine. It was never lost, and we don't need your assistance. The older officer sighed again, bent down and patted my shoulder. Kid, I know it's tough, but if the victim of the theft refuses to press charges, our hands are tied. I'm sorry. With that, he led his rookie partner out the door. The second the door clicked shut, Arthur spun around and roared at me, Leo, the cops are gone. Why are you still on the floor? Who are you acting crazy for now? Get up. Stop embarrassing us. I calmly stood up. First, I smoothed out the wrinkles on my faded school uniform. Then, I elegantly dusted off my sleeves. Casually, I strolled over to the dining table, poured myself a cup of tea, and took a slow, dramatic sip. Looking up, I gave the Lancaster family a chillingly sweet smile. You know, starting tonight, the rumor about the second daughter of the Lancaster family being a petty thief is going to spread across the entire city. Congrats, Chloe. You're about to be an influencer. It took a solid 5 seconds for Chloe's brain to process my words. He's going to ruin me socially. Her face lost all color and panic flooded her eyes. Arthur erupted. Leo, you ungrateful bastard. How can you be so vicious? I'll beat you to death. He grabbed a heavy teacup from the table, rearing back to hurl it right at my head. But before his arm could swing forward, I moved with the speed of a caffeinated ninja. I snatched a fruit knife from the table and closed the distance between us in a single bound. Arthur flinched, genuinely terrified I was going to stab him. But surprise! I simply shoved the handle of the knife into his hand, grabbed his wrist and pressed the blade right against my own neck. Come on, I yelled, my eyes wide and unblinking. A teacup is boring. Use the knife. Do it. Slit my throat. It'll be a blast. Make your move, old man. My voice echoed through the room. Arthur was so terrified his knees practically gave out, and he dropped the knife to the floor with a loud clatter. I looked at him with pure mockery. Can't even commit to a little homicide so boring. Are we done here? Because I'm getting sleepy. Arthur's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, but no words came out. I gave the stunned family a lazy yawn, turned around and walked back to my room. The moment I stepped inside, the damp, suffocating smell of mold hit my nose. I frowned and flicked the light switch. It was a claustrophobic rectangular box of about 50 square feet, no windows. The only furniture was a single bed with a damp, faded blanket that had been washed too many times to retain any color. There was literally no space for anything else. Since the day I arrived at the Lancaster estate, I had been forced to live in this dark, damp closet. It used to be a storage room for the maids. In my past life, despite the miserable conditions, I endured it. I didn't want to be a burden. I never fought for a better room. But the new me? Oh, absolutely not. Whoever makes me suffer will never know peace. Damp room, huh? I muttered. Nothing a little indoor campfire can't fix. I marched out to the mansion's extravagant garden, snapped off a bunch of rose bushes, and hauled them back to my room. I even put on a dust mask to prepare for the main event. Once everything was set, I used the rose branches to start a cozy little fire right in the middle of the room. The wet wood sizzled, and thick, glorious white smoke began to billow out, filling my room before seeping under the door and into the rest of the mansion. The Lancaster mansion had 3 floors. The family slept on the second. The third floor had the study, music room, and other leisure areas. The first floor was for the kitchen, living room, and maid quarters. As the white smoke invaded the first floor, Nora the maid was the first to notice. Panicking that the house was burning down, and terrified of getting fired, she rushed to my room and screamed, "What are you doing? You're a grown boy playing with fire. The whole house is filling with smoke. Mr. and Mrs. Lancaster are going to choke, and they'll blame me. Put it out right now." She reached out to grab a burning branch, but the moment her hand got close, I snatched her wrist in an iron grip. She glared at me frantically. "What are you doing? Let me go. I need to put this out before they notice. I'm trying to help you." I gave her a polite deadpan smile. "This fire cannot be extinguished." Nora was bewildered. "Why not? Can't you see the smoke is going to suffocate everyone?" I laughed internally. In my past life I was such a pushover that even the maid felt entitled to yell at me. No more swallowing my pride. I pointed to the damp, moldy corners of the walls and looked at her. "Nora, are you blind? My room is damp. I am simply dehumidifying it with thermal energy." She froze. She definitely didn't expect that logic. A flash of guilt crossed her face. Of course she knew the room was damp. It used to be her storage closet. Keeping the rooms dry and clean was technically her job, but she always felt overworked, and since I never complained, she just pretended the problem didn't exist. She never expected me to take matters into my own hands by literally smoking the place out. "Wait, if they find out he's doing this because the room is damp, they'll blame me." Nora panicked internally. She quickly backpedaled. "Young Master Leo, you don't need a fire. Tomorrow, I'll bring some moisture absorbers. I'll even ask Mr. Lancaster to buy a dehumidifier. Please, just put the fire out for tonight. Just endure it for one more night. I swear I'll fix it tomorrow." I chuckled darkly. "Oh, so you do know how to fix a damp room, Nora? Then why have I lived here for 2 years, and you've never done a thing about it? Is this your standard of work?" Meanwhile, up in the master bedroom on the second floor, Arthur and Evelyn had just changed into their silk pajamas, ready for bed. Suddenly, smoke wafted into their room, sending them into a violent coughing fit. They stumbled out into the hallway, only to find the corridor completely engulfed in a dense white fog. "What the hell is going on?" Arthur bellowed between coughs. "How is Nora doing her job? Where is this smoke coming from?" Just as he was about to march downstairs to fire the maid, Lily, Chloe, and Mason also stumbled out of their rooms, eyes red and watering from the smoke. The family gathered in the hazy hallway, utterly confused and furious. As a unit, they marched down to the first floor to hunt down Nora. The smoke on the first floor was even worse, stinging their eyes. Arthur tried to maintain his authoritative posture and roared, "Nora, get out here right now and explain this. Do you want to burn my house down? Are you tired of having a job?" Evelyn, playing the peacemaker, coughed. "Arthur, let's just ask what happened first before jumping to conclusions." Lily and the others angrily piled on. "Nora is getting so lazy. If she worked at my company, she'd be fired with no severance." Hearing the commotion, Nora abandoned me and sprinted to the entryway. But hearing the family's brutal comments as she arrived, she felt incredibly wronged. Tears welled up in her eyes. Seeing her crying, Arthur only got madder. "You still have the nerve to cry? Look at this smoke. If we suffer smoke inhalation, can you take responsibility?" Nora sobbed, her voice trembling. "Sir, the smoke isn't my fault. It's all young Master Leo's doing. It has nothing to do with me." Arthur froze. "Leo, what is he doing now? Is he not done causing trouble for one day? First he frames Chloe as a thief, now he's trying to smoke us out. Leo, get your ass out here and explain yourself, or I swear I'm done with you." Over in my room, I heard Arthur's screaming loud and clear along with Nora's snitching, but I just kept casually tossing more damp rose branches into the fire, completely unbothered. In fact, thinking the smoke wasn't thick enough, I threw in a few extra leafy ones for maximum effect. "Don't like the smoke? Just inhale more, you'll build an immunity." After waiting and getting zero response, Arthur felt his authority was being mocked. He glared at Nora. "Take me to him. I want to see exactly what he's doing." Nora nervously led the way to my room, followed closely by the coughing, red-eyed Lancaster family. When they reached my doorway, they all stopped dead in their tracks. There I was, wearing a dust mask, happily tending to a roaring campfire in the middle of the tiny room. Thick white smoke billowed continuously from the pile. Arthur shook with rage, pointing a finger at me. "Leo, you ungrateful wretch! What are you doing? We let the watch incident slide, and now you want to gas us in our own home? What do you want?" From the back, Chloe muttered, "Nobody let it slide." Evelyn frowned deeply. "Leo, I always thought you were a sensible boy. Why are you acting like a delinquent today? First calling the cops on your sister, now lighting fires indoors? Can you just be a little more mature?" I rolled my eyes under my mask. This woman was a master manipulator. In my past life I was weak and docile because she constantly weaponized the word sensible against me, guilt-tripping me into never standing up for myself. Lily crossed her arms. "Exactly. Leo, do you lack basic common sense? You don't live here alone. You can't just be selfish." Then came Mason, stepping up to play the angelic sibling. "Big brother definitely didn't do it on purpose. He probably didn't realize the fire would make this much smoke and choke us. Now that he knows, He won't let us suffer. You'll put it out right now, won't you, big brother? Arthur heard this and practically blew a gasket. Of course he knew. Look at him, he's literally wearing a mask. Leo, put that out immediately, or you're dead meat. Despite their screaming, guilt-tripping, and fake empathy, I didn't even flinch. I waited for them to finish their little chorus, then slowly tossed another branch into the flames. Yeah, putting it out isn't going to happen, I said casually. Seeing me fuel the fire, Arthur's eye twitched violently. He remembered me putting a knife to my throat earlier, and didn't dare step forward to physically stop me. He just stood by the door and yelled, "Why can't you put it out? Look at us, we're suffocating." I poked the fire with a stick, not even looking up. Obviously, I can't put it out. This room is so damp it's practically a swamp. I'm just doing a little DIY climate control. What's wrong with drying the place out? I finally looked up at their pathetic figures, standing in luxury pajamas, eyes red, coughing into their hands. I gave them a cheerful smile. Don't worry, guys. You'll get used to it. Once you adapt to the carbon monoxide, it's really not that bad. Arthur was dumbfounded. You're acting crazy again. There isn't a single damp bedroom in the Lancaster mansion. Hearing that, I instantly sprang up, lunged at Arthur, grabbed his arm and dragged him right into my room. Before he could react, I slammed his pristine, manicured hand flat against the wall. What the hell are you? Arthur started, trying to yank his hand away, but he suddenly froze. The wall beneath his palm was freezing cold and undeniably wet. Well, I demanded loudly. Is it damp? Is it wet? Pretty freaking damp, isn't it? Arthur looked down at his hand. The wall was covered in suspicious green mold spots, and there were literal water droplets near the baseboard. He looked around the room, his pupils dilating. This 4 by 5 foot box had mold on all 4 walls, no windows, a single bed with a blanket that looked and felt like a wet mop. He touched the blanket soaked. Arthur's rage suddenly pivoted. Leo, why are you living in a damp closet? Does the Lancaster family lack money? Do we lack houses? Why is my son living in a claustrophobic, unventilated swamp? At this point, Evelyn and Lily also squeezed into the doorway. I sneered at them. Perfect timing. Let's get a sensory experience going for everyone. I grabbed Evelyn with one hand and Lily with the other, yanking them forward and slapping their hands against the moldy wall. They opened their mouths to scream at me, but the freezing, slimy sensation on their palms shut them up instantly. Seeing the gross green spots, they violently pulled their hands back, wiping them frantically on their expensive pajamas like they had just touched toxic waste. Seeing their reactions, I laughed coldly inside. You can't even handle touching it for 3 seconds? Try living here for 2 years. Well, I shouted. Is it damp? My room is a biohazard zone. What's wrong with burning a little fire to dry it out? Are you guys being dramatic or what? Whoever thinks I shouldn't burn this fire is welcome to sleep in this bed tonight. Let's see who survives. Arthur looked at my unhinged, defiant posture, trembling with anger. But this time, the anger wasn't entirely directed at me. Nora, Arthur bellowed. Get in here and explain this right now. Why is Leo living in a damp storage room? Nora, hearing the terrifying roar, squeezed through the door looking utterly miserable. Mr. Lancaster, you can't blame me for this. I was just following orders from you and the madam. Arthur's eyes widened. Bullshit. When did I ever tell you to put Leo in this dump? Nora, you've got some nerve trying to push the blame onto us. Evelyn also frowned, her voice soft but sharp. Nora, I always thought you were an honest worker. Why are you shifting blame? I've trusted you for years. Nora broke down, crying and screaming. Sir, madam, you can't say that. 2 years ago when young Master Leo arrived, I asked you. At that time, the 3rd floor had just been renovated, and there were no empty rooms. The 2nd floor was full of your bedrooms, so madam specifically told me to clean out a room on the 1st floor for him. Evelyn's face instantly went stiff with embarrassment, but she quickly defended herself. Nora, let's get the facts straight. I told you to clean a room on the 1st floor. I didn't tell you to put him in a moldy storage closet. Nora collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Madam, what other room was there on the 1st floor? This was literally the only empty space left. I was getting bored of their corporate blame game. Since they had the energy to argue, the smoke clearly wasn't thick enough. I grabbed a fresh handful of damp roses and gently placed them onto the fire. Arthur saw this and his eye twitched. Why are you adding more fuel? Look at the smoke. Do you want to kill us? Put it out. Evelyn frowned at me. Leo, I know you're not a selfish boy. Look, the fire is choking the whole family. You wouldn't only think of yourself, right? Be a good boy and put it out. I held a burning branch, looking at them with wide, innocent eyes. Put it out? You guys literally just felt how wet this room is. If I don't dry it out, how can I sleep? You guys aren't selfish either, right? It's just a little smoke. Cough a little and you'll build character. You guys only have to smell it for a bit, but I have to sleep in this swamp. You wouldn't force me to sleep in mold just to save yourself some coughing, right? Evelyn was left completely speechless by my flawless reverse card. Arthur glared at her. He knew if he didn't solve my housing crisis today, this fire was never going out. Leo, put the fire out. Fine, we will give you a new room, big, bright, and clean. You won't need to burn fires anymore. Evelyn's lips parted as if she wanted to object, but one look at Arthur made her swallow her words. I feigned shock. No way, you guys are so busy. I couldn't possibly trouble you. I'm a big boy now. I can solve my own problems. I'll just keep the bonfire going. No need to inconvenience anyone. Saying that, I tossed 3 more branches into the flames. This time, not only did Arthur's eye twitch, but his entire facial structure spasmed. No, it's not a trouble, not at all. I'd like to see anyone try to say it's a trouble. He shot a lethal glare at Evelyn and Lily. Evelyn froze, forcing a plastic smile. Of course it's not a trouble, it's a simple fix. Lily, who had been completely silent ever since she saw the windowless mold box I lived in, just nodded. Even though she disliked me, the sudden interloper brother, she wasn't quite cruel enough to think a human should live in a damp closet. The Lancasters certainly had enough spare rooms. Arthur nodded in satisfaction and turned back to me. See, Leo? Everyone agrees, now put the fire out. Look at the smoke. It's getting ridiculous. I put on a shy, conflicted face. Well, if it's truly not a bother, I guess it would be rude to reject your kindness. I'd hate to make you guys sad. Arthur pointed frantically at the fire. Yes, we'd be very sad. Now extinguish it. I blinked at him, holding a branch. Extinguish it? Why? They all froze. Arthur's face turned purple. Leo, don't push your luck! We agreed to change your room. Why are you still burning things? Are you playing games with us? I ignored his tantrum, tilting my head in confusion. Yeah, you agreed to change my room, but what does that have to do with putting the fire out? I still have to sleep in this room tonight, don't I? So obviously, I need to keep the fire going to dry it out for tonight. Arthur's face looked like he was about to have a stroke. Are you saying, until you literally move into the new room, you're going to keep this fire burning? Duh, I said. This place is a swamp. If you don't let me dry it, you're welcome to sleep in it yourself. I rolled my eyes at him. Arthur was losing his mind. Do you think I'm lying to you? I said we'll change it, so we'll change it. You've lived here for 2 years, can't you just endure 1 or 2 more days? I can't even endure 1 more hour, I retorted. If you can endure it, you sleep here. I pointed the burning branch at the green mold on the wall. Look at this, is this a science experiment or a bedroom? How do you expect me to survive without a fire? Arthur looked at my completely unhinged demeanor. Remembering the knife incident, panic started bubbling in his chest again. He took a deep breath and turned his wrath onto Evelyn. Get him a new room, a big, bright, clean one. Immediately. Do you not see this? Your precious son won't put the fire out until he's in a new room. Do you want us to choke on smoke all night? Evelyn looked incredibly stressed. But all the rooms in the mansion have a purpose. The 3rd floor has your study, my yoga studio, Lily's home office, Chloe's art studio, and Mason's study room. The 2nd floor is all our bedrooms. The 1st floor only has this storage room. Where am I supposed to find a big, bright room right now? Arthur pondered for a second. I remember Mason's study room on the 3rd floor has a bed in it for when he gets tired from studying, right? Let's just convert Mason's study into Leo's bedroom for now. Evelyn was shocked. That's not right. Where will Mason do his homework? His grades are so good we can't afford to disrupt his studies. Chloe and Mason, who were standing right outside the door, heard Arthur's decree. Mason immediately lowered his head, looking heartbroken, but a vicious, toxic glare flashed in his eyes. Chloe, however, shrieked from the hallway. I disagree, Mason is a top student. Why should his education be sacrificed for him? Arthur snapped. It's just a damn room. This one says no. That one disagrees. Have you not inhaled enough smoke? Do you want to be human smoked salmon? Chloe, if you disagree, then give up your art studio for his bedroom. Chloe instantly backed down. Where would I paint? My studio is full of valuable art. If he takes my studio, where do my paintings go? Then shut your mouth, Arthur roared. Whoever else objects can give up their precious hobby room on the 3rd floor. Dead silence fell over the hallway. Nobody dared to utter a word. After a dramatic pause, Mason looked up with tear-filled red eyes. Dad, it's okay. Let Big Brother have my study. My education isn't as important as his sleep. As long as he sleeps well, I'm more than happy to give it up. Arthur nodded approvingly. About to praise Mason for being such a mature, angelic son, but I violently cut him off. Mason, spare me the soap opera. Are you seriously acting like a martyr right now? You're the adopted son, yet you have both a bedroom and a private study. Meanwhile, I, the biological son, didn't even have a bedroom with a window. You giving up your extra study room for me to sleep in is somehow a massive sacrifice? Is the Lancaster family abusing you or something? Arthur's words of praise choked in his throat. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. Outside the door, Mason froze, genuine panic setting in. He couldn't comprehend what was happening. The old Leo would never dare to confront him like this. Chloe rushed to defend her favorite fake brother. Leo, you ungrateful jerk. Mason is kind enough to give you his room, and instead of thanking him, you mock him? Mason played the victim flawlessly. Chloe, please stop. I'm voluntarily giving it up. I don't need his gratitude. I couldn't care less about their little performance. I picked up the remaining pile of wet rose branches and dumped them all onto the fire. The flames roared higher and the smoke became thicker than ever. I sighed loudly. Well, looks like I'm stuck in this room tonight. Better dry it out thoroughly. Everyone screamed in terror and scrambled out of the room, terrified of being suffocated. Arthur glared fiercely at his family. This is all your fault. He covered his mouth, coughed violently, and yelled at Chloe. Gratitude for what? I own every room in this house. I decide who sleeps where. Who does Leo need to thank? He doesn't even need to thank me. He then turned to Mason. Are you really that aggrieved giving up your study? Mason frantically shook his head. No, Dad, not at all. Arthur ignored them and turned to the maid. Nora, tonight, you will clear out Mason's study on the 3rd floor and turn it into Leo's bedroom. Immediately, Nora, finally snapping out of her daze, nodded vigorously and sprinted upstairs to start cleaning. Arthur watched her leave, then let out a massive sigh of relief and looked at me. Leo, your housing crisis is solved. You'll have a new room in a bit. Can you please put the fire out now? I looked at him, then down at the fire, and sighed dramatically. All right, fine. Since you guys went through so much trouble to accommodate me, I'd be a jerk to refuse. Guess I'll just have to tolerate the third floor. Arthur's eye twitched so hard he practically gave himself a migraine, but seeing that the fire was finally going to die, he exhaled deeply. I stood up, looking at my campfire with deep, melancholic regret. Oh, my beautiful fire, you've worked so hard, but I have a new room now, so I must say goodbye. Farewell, my fiery friend. Saying that, I grabbed a glass of water and splashed it over the flames. Seeing the fire die out, Arthur finally felt safe. All right, if there's nothing else, go to sleep. Nora will have your room ready soon. Get some rest. Nora worked with the speed of a caffeinated cheetah. Half an hour later, I moved into my new bedroom on the third floor. It was huge, about 300 square feet, with a desk, a sofa, and a massive bed. Compared to my old room, my belongings looked pathetically sparse. Just a blanket, a few books, and 2 sets of heavily faded school uniforms. Overall, I was pretty satisfied. I had accomplished 2 major victories today, and I was exhausted. I threw myself onto the new bed and instantly passed out. The next morning, I woke up, looked at my faded uniforms, and realized I needed some new clothes. The problem? I was broke, as in, dirt poor. In my past life, when I returned to the Lancasters, Evelyn claimed that the family would provide all my food and transport, and since I didn't need to socialize, I didn't need an allowance. Meanwhile, Lily and Chloe got $10,000 a month, and even the fake son Mason got $5,000. Clearly, I needed a side hustle. When I went downstairs for breakfast, only Evelyn, Chloe, and Mason were home. Probably because of yesterday's chaos, all 3 of them aggressively ignored me, giving me the silent treatment to show their dominance. I couldn't care less. After inhaling my breakfast, I grabbed a large woven sack from the utility room, made sure my phone was fully charged, and marched out the front door. Time to get this bread! I yelled to nobody in particular. The 3 of them looked at each other in total confusion. What kind of episode is he having this early in the morning? I carried my sack out of the mansion and surveyed the luxury villa district. There were about 50 massive estates here, with a communal dumpster placed every 5 houses. 10 dumpsters in total. If I did a full lap, I could easily raid all of them. Action time. I pulled out my phone, logged into TikTok Douyin, and started a live stream with the title, Billionaire's Hair Dumpster Dives in Luxury Beverly Hills Style Estate. Then, sack in hand, my trash hunting journey began. Thanks to the clickbait title and the algorithm's boost for new streamers, my viewer count quickly hit over 100. What is this clickbait? Billionaire's heir? Yeah, right. If he's really a rich kid, why is he digging through trash? I don't even care if it's real, I just want to see if rich people throw away good stuff. Reading the chat, I adjusted my gloves and dove into the first bin. Welcome to the stream, chat. I am indeed a certified, genuine billionaire heir. If you don't believe me, go Google Arthur Lancaster, the wealthiest man in the city. See if he has a son named Leo. Notice the family resemblance? As for why I'm digging through trash? Well, it's a long story. I was kidnapped by human traffickers when I was 2. Grew up in an orphanage. Only got brought back to the Lancaster family 2 years ago. But since I have a working-class background, they don't give me an allowance. I'm a broke high school senior, so I gotta hustle. Suddenly, my eyes gleamed. You! Chat, look at this. I pulled out a watch and held it right up to the camera lens, grinning like a maniac. Check this out, a Dior watch. It's not broken, just slightly used. Not bad at all. The chat exploded. Bro, no way, I just checked the official site. That watch is worth like $1,500. Even in that condition, you could flip it for $400 easy. Streamer, are you selling it? I'll give you $500 right now. Callie kept digging with one hand while holding the phone. Selling it? Of course, but keep your $500, $300, and it's yours. First person to DM me gets it. Add my Venmo, send the cash and address, and I'll ship it today. Instantly, digital gifs and crying emojis flooded the screen. OMG, streamer is so nice, giving fan discounts. Next time I'm claiming it first. The donations started rolling in to support my treasure hunt. I was practically doing a happy dance in my head, but the rest of the first dumpster was a bust. Just empty champagne bottles and actual trash. I quickly moved to dumpster 2. A few minutes later, I burst out laughing. Haha, jackpot baby, look what we have here. I held up a gleaming golden object. A pure gold necklace. This looks like the new collection from Tiffany's. Retails for like $800. I want it. Dibs, take my money, the chat screamed. Sold for $150 to the first DM, but don't pay me yet. I need to get it authenticated first to make sure it's real gold before I ship it. Streamer is an absolute legend, so honest. Thanks to the interaction and the sheer absurdity of the stream, my viewer count skyrocketed. The algorithm caught on and soon trending tags like billionaire dumpster diving, kidnapped hair hustles, and rich kid trash treasure were climbing the local trending charts. While I was having the time of my life digging through garbage, the Lancaster mansion was in a state of absolute panic. Arthur was at his corporate office, reviewing documents when his phone rang. It was Richard Sterling, a rival CEO. The two hated each other's guts and took every opportunity to throw shade. Arthur wanted to decline, but Richard kept spamming him until he finally picked up. Ha ha ha, Arthur, my man, I am dying. Richard's booming laugh blasted through the speaker. Your son is on the trending page. Billionaire's hair digs through trash. I am literally crying. This is peak comedy. Arthur's heart stopped. He immediately opened his laptop and searched the tags. Sure enough, high-resolution screenshots of me half buried in a dumpster flooded his screen. His face morphed through 5 stages of grief in 3 seconds. He grabbed his car keys and sped straight home. Bursting through the front doors, Arthur found Evelyn, Chloe, and Mason sitting in the living room, chatting and laughing over tea. The picture-perfect, cozy family vibe just made his blood boil hotter. Where is Leo? He roared, startling everyone so badly they spilled their tea. Why isn't anyone watching him? Evelyn frowned, annoyed. Have you lost your mind? Why are you screaming the second you walk in? Arthur let out a hysterical, enraged laugh. I haven't asked you yet. Where is he? Do you have any idea what he's doing? Evelyn rolled her eyes. He's almost 18. Do I need to put an Apple AirTag on him? He went out this morning saying he was going to get this bread. I figured he got a part-time job sweeping floors or moving boxes. Arthur's face turned completely purple. Moving boxes? You wish. He is humiliating us. The entire Lancaster family is the laughingstock of the city. He chucked his phone onto the sofa. Look at what your precious son is doing. Evelyn picked up the phone and gasped. There I was, on a live video feed, elbow deep in a dumpster, with bold text reading, Billionaire's hair dumpster dives. Chloe peeked over and her jaw dropped. Mason pretended to look horrified, but a gleeful smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. What is this? Evelyn panicked, trying to save face. He chose to dig through trash to make money. How was I supposed to know? How do you manage this house? Arthur screamed at her. Meanwhile, totally oblivious to the nuclear meltdown at home, I was engaging with my fans. I had reached the final dumpster. The previous ones yielded the watch, the necklace, some designer toys, Dior sneakers, and luxury perfume. My chat had bought everything, and I had already made a clean $1,000. I enthusiastically dove into the last bin, hoping for a grand finale. Suddenly, my eyes locked onto a premium, pristine orange box. Chat, we have an Hermes box, I yelled, pulling it out. I popped it open. Holy crap, it's a set of 5 brand new red lipsticks. The chat went feral. Hermes lipsticks, new coction, that's $300. Streamer, please, I need them. You know the drill, I laughed. First DM gets it for $50. Oh, I'm so cheap, Streamer, you are an angel. I was literally buzzing with joy. I was just about to pack up my sack when a screeching voice shattered the peace. Leo, you absolute disgrace! I looked up. Evelyn was sprinting toward me, her designer heels clicking frantically on the pavement. Her perfectly styled hair was a mess, and she had lost all of her high society elegance. You are humiliating the Lancaster family. Get your ass home right now. Your father is furious. I casually ignored her and kept packing my trash treasures. Evelyn, seeing me ignore her, marched up and tried to grab my arm. I swatted her hand away and smiled at the camera. Hey chat, I'm streaming right now. Want me to introduce you guys? Evelyn recoiled like she had been burned, stumbling backward in sheer terror of being caught on the live stream. The chat went wild. Who is that Karen? Why is she yelling at our favorite streamer? Keep digging, bro, ignore her. Don't turn off the stream. This drama is 10/10. I smiled warmly at the camera. Don't worry, guys. Until I've cleared every dumpster in this zip code, the stream stays on. Let's see what else is in this last bin. I went back to digging, completely ignoring Evelyn, who was standing 10 feet away, pinching her nose in disgust, too terrified to approach the camera. Defeated, she pulled out her phone and frantically called Arthur for backup. Minutes later, Arthur, Lily, Chloe, and Mason came sprinting down the street. Seeing me still knee-deep in garbage, Arthur was about to charge forward and tackle me, but Evelyn yanked him back. He's live streaming, she hissed. If you go over there, your face will be all over the internet. Arthur froze in his tracks, forced to stand on the sidewalk and glare at me with murderous intent. I kept digging, but the bin was mostly empty. Just as I was about to call it quits, the chat started spamming. Streamer, that little black pouch, grab it. Yeah, that looks like Gucci, check it. I followed their instructions and picked up a tiny, unremarkable black pouch about the size of my palm. I held it up. This thing, yes, it's a classic Gucci coin purse. They don't even sell those anymore. It's worth like $200 secondhand. Dibs, I play $100 right now. I was bewildered that a tiny leather square was worth so much, but money is money. Sold for $100 to the first DM. The chat rained digital gifts on me. I looked at the empty dumpster and smiled brightly. All right, chat, that's all the dumpsters cleared. We're done for today. If you didn't snag anything, don't worry. We'll go trash hunting again tomorrow. No, don't leave. Tomorrow for sure. I happily patted my massive sack of loot. Arthur, watching my triumphant smile, looked like he was about to burst a blood vessel. He tried to lunge forward again, but Evelyn held him back, pointing to the neighboring mansions. Several neighbors were peeking out of their windows, enjoying the free reality TV show. Arthur's face turned black. He pointed a trembling finger at me. Leo, you ungrateful bastard, get inside the house right now. We are going to have a serious talk. Evelyn looked at me with pure disgust. Chloe stuck her tongue out, mocking me. Mason looked concerned, but his eyes gleamed with schadenfreude. I couldn't care less about their dramatic face-changing circus act. I stretched my back. Man, dumpster diving is quite the workout. I hoisted the massive sack of trash treasures over my shoulder, whistling a cheerful tune as I strolled past them toward the mansion. Once inside, I ignored their death glares, carried my sack straight up to the 3rd floor, and carefully locked my loot inside my room. This was my hard-earned inventory for my fans. I couldn't let these psychos ruin it. Arthur, furious that I hadn't immediately groveled, led the entire family stampeding into my room. Mason walked in, his eyes full of resentment at seeing me in his former study. I started organizing my loot, completely ignoring their existence. "Leo, you absolute embarrassment," Arthur roared. "Throw that garbage out immediately! Do you have any idea how much face the Lancaster family lost today?" Evelyn frowned. "You are the son of a billionaire now, not some street urchin. You need to think about our reputation." Chloe pinched her nose. "You're so gross! Raised in an orphanage, so you just naturally gravitate toward garbage. So embarrassing." Mason played the saint. "Big brother, you don't understand. The family's honor is more important than anything. Just throw the trash away and apologize to Mom and Dad." I gently placed a designer shoe down, turned around and looked at them. "Dumpster diving is tiring enough without you flies buzzing in my ears." I stared dead into Arthur's eyes. "Don't lecture me about honor or face. In the real world, compared to cold hard cash, face is worthless garbage. Without money you die. Without face, you just feel a little awkward. I prefer not starving." Arthur was so mad he was practically vibrating. "You little bastard. When did the Lancaster family ever let you starve or freeze? Do you lack allowance? We give you top-tier living conditions. And you have the audacity to say, money is more important than our reputation." Before he could continue his rant, I held up a hand. "Hold up. Since I moved in, I absolutely have lacked clothes and money. If I didn't, why the hell would I be digging through trash?" Arthur's face darkened. "What kind of nonsense are you making up to excuse your humiliating behavior?" I immediately walked over to my pathetic little closet, yanked out all my clothes and threw them at his feet. "Look closely. This is my entire wardrobe provided by the billionaire Lancaster family. 2 faded, slightly torn school uniforms. Is this not lacking clothes?" Arthur was about to yell again, but he looked down at the pile. He froze. Literally just 2 worn-out uniforms. Nothing else. He looked at me in shock. "Are you kidding me? You only have 2 uniforms? Evelyn, is this true? How can he only have 2 outfits?" Arthur rarely paid attention to domestic matters and genuinely thought I just liked wearing my uniform. Hearing that this was my entire wardrobe, he refused to believe it, hoping Evelyn would deny it. But Evelyn just looked away, looking incredibly guilty and awkward. Arthur glared at her, temporarily suppressing his rage to interrogate me. "You're almost an adult. Don't you know how to buy your own clothes? What do you do with your allowance? Spend it all on games?" I laughed coldly. "Allowance? I have never seen a single penny of allowance since I stepped foot in this house. Honestly, the orphanage treated me better. At least there, we got new clothes every season and a few bucks for snacks. Here, nothing to wear, nothing to spend. I should have just stayed at the orphanage." Moving to the Lancaster estate was a massive downgrade, Arthur exploded. "You dare say my house is worse than an orphanage? Stop lying. Every kid in this house gets an allowance. Even your older sisters who have jobs still get money from us. Why wouldn't you?" He whipped around to face Evelyn. "Evelyn, am I right? Tell me exactly how much allowance Leo gets every month. Expose his lies." Evelyn's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Her face turned green, then white. Finally, she offered a weak defense. "Leo is a high school student. His food and housing are covered. What does he need money for?" Arthur looked at her in sheer disbelief, pointing a trembling finger. "So, you actually never gave him an allowance?" Her silence was all the confirmation he needed. Arthur was too stunned to speak, but this wasn't the time to fight with his wife. The most urgent priority was stopping me from going back to the dumpsters and ruining his PR. He coughed awkwardly and looked at me. "Leo, let's make a deal. You're picking trash because you have no money, right? Starting today, I will have your mother give you a monthly allowance. Just promise me you won't go dumpster diving anymore, okay?" I waved my hand dismissively. "Nah, keep your allowance, I'm good. I found my own hustle. Just today alone, I made $1,000 from this loot. At this rate, 30 days a month, that's $30,000 a month. So please, don't bother giving me charity. I love being a self-made entrepreneur." Arthur's eyelid twitched aggressively. He gritted his teeth. "Leo, you make $30,000 a month doing this? Fine. I will personally give you an allowance of $30,000 a month. Just stop touching the garbage. Deal?" Before I could answer, Evelyn protested. "He's in high school. He doesn't need $30,000. I think $1,500 a month is more than enough." Chloe immediately whined. "Dad, why does Leo get $30,000? Me and Lily only get $10,000, and Mason gets $5,000. If he gets $30K, he's getting more than us. That's not fair." Seeing their eyes turn red with jealousy, I laughed internally and quickly agreed with them. "Yeah, exactly. So unfair. Just let me be an independent hustler. Seriously, keep your money." Arthur glared at the girls and roared. "Don't talk to me about fairness. Chloe, can you earn $30,000 a month? If you can, I'll give you a $30K allowance too." "Can you?" Chloe pouted and shut up. Arthur turned to Evelyn. "A Lancaster child deserves $1 million a month, let alone 30,000. You think it's too much? Fine. I will transfer the money to him personally." Evelyn didn't dare argue further, especially since it wasn't coming out of her personal budget. Arthur turned back to me. "Well, Leo, $30,000 a month, directly from me. Just stop picking trash, yes or no? I let out a dramatic, long-suffering sigh. This old man just won't stop forcing money into my hands. What can I do? Getting 30K for doing nothing is easier than digging through bins. And frankly, Evelyn's feelings aren't my problem. Fine. I love being self-made, but since you're practically begging me to take your money, I'd hate to hurt your feelings. I accept Arthur's facial muscles spasmed, but as long as I stopped embarrassing him on TikTok, he didn't care about my attitude. He pulled out a sleek black bank card and handed it over. There's $30,000 on this card. From now on, I will wire the money on the first of every month. As long as you stay out of the dumpsters, the money won't stop. But if I catch you near a trash can again, I'm cutting you off instantly. Understood? I snatched the card. Stop nagging, or I'm going right back to the bins. At least my hustle doesn't come with a lecture. I'm only taking this because I pity you. Arthur was utterly exasperated, but seeing the card in my hand, he finally breathed a sigh of relief and ushered the family out. Once they were gone, I looked at my loot and sighed. My glorious empire cut down in its prime. But hey, 30K a month is a massive win. I didn't expect my stream to blow up like that. I had a solid fan base now. I couldn't just let the account die. I needed to pivot my content strategy. What should I stream next? For now, I had to fulfill my orders. I spent the entire afternoon packing and shipping the loot, cashing in my $1,000 via Venmo. Exhausted, I hit the bed and slept like a log. The next morning, I slept in until 10 a.m. After washing up, I headed downstairs for breakfast. As I reached the staircase, I heard a mocking, duck-like voice. Hey Mason, is this the trash picker of your family? Sleeping in? The early bird gets the garbage, you know. I looked over. It was a chubby, short kid giving me a nasty side-eye. His name was Luke. Beside him were Vince, Tom, and Sam. Some were snickering, others were ignoring me, continuing to chat up Mason. I frowned, memories flooding back. These were the sons of local businessmen who relied on Lancaster corporate contracts. They constantly kissed Mason's ass and acted as his personal minions. Under Mason's subtle instigation, they regularly bullied me verbally. Since returning to the family, Arthur enrolled me in the elite Sunshine Private Academy, putting me in the same class as Mason, claiming we could look out for each other. Oh, Mason looked out for me, all right. He successfully turned the entire class against me and ordered these goons to harass and humiliate me daily. It was textbook psychological bullying, no physical violence, just relentless cold shouldering and verbal abuse that made me dread going to school. In my past life, after Chloe framed me for stealing the watch, these minions spread the rumor at school, cementing my reputation as a thief and plunging my life into darkness. Thinking about this, my joy from the 30K faded. Mason clearly wasn't happy about being humiliated by me over the past few days and was resorting to his old tricks. He specifically invited his minions over to insult me in my own home. Perfect. Saves me the trouble of hunting them down. School doesn't start for another 5 days. Mason really hand-delivered these idiots to my doorstep for target practice. But first, breakfast. I needed fuel to deal with this trash. Let them act smug for a bit longer. I ignored the chubby kid's taunts, walked into the kitchen, grabbed a plate, and started eating. Mason watched my silent retreat, looking slightly confused. This didn't match the feral Leo he had witnessed over the last few days. Maybe he only acts tough with family, but is still a coward with outsiders? Mason thought. Luke leaned in and whispered to Mason. See, I totally roasted him and he didn't do jack. Don't worry, bro. He's a total wimp. We can handle him easy, the others chimed in. Yeah, he's a snitch who doesn't even dare to snitch. We'll help you vent some anger today. We were gonna wait till school started, but doing it in his own house is way funnier. Mason's eyes flashed with a sinister light as he whispered something back to them. Inside the kitchen, I finished my food and had a brilliant epiphany for my next live stream. I grabbed a few packets of ketchup from the fridge, slipped them into my pocket, and hit go live on my phone. Instantly, my eager fans flooded the chat. Streamer, we've been waiting. Let's get that trash. Did you get enough sleep? A well-rested streamer finds the best loot. I smiled at the comments. Gee, his smile is so cute. This is a dumpster diving stream, not a beauty pageant. Get in the bin. I sneakily placed my phone in a hidden corner of the living room, angling the camera perfectly to capture the squad of losers on the sofa. Then I confidently strolled out of the kitchen. The moment I appeared, the malicious gazes of Luke and his crew locked onto me. Sam smirked, looking like he couldn't wait to start trouble. I ignored them, knowing they would come to me. And right on cue, as I stepped toward the stairs, they made their move. Luke led the charge, blocking my path, crossing his arms and sneering. Hey, trash boy. I heard you've been upsetting my boss, Mason. You got a lot of nerve. Vince, Tom, and Sam quickly surrounded me, blocking all escape routes. Trash boy, apologize to our boss right now and swear you'll obey him from now on. Otherwise, you know what happens. Sam threatened with a nasty grin. Leo, don't listen to them. Mason called out from the sofa, acting innocent. I actually hope you don't apologize, so you can learn what regret feels like. I frowned. These insults were weak. I needed to spice things up for the camera. I looked at them with pure disgust and muttered just loud enough for them to hear. A bunch of lapdogs barking for their master. Low-class, motherless bastards. They all froze in sheer shock. Did I just curse them out? Luke turned bright red with rage and reached out to grab my collar. The others raised their fists, ready to throw hands. Perfect, I cheered internally. Everything was going exactly according to plan. Right as their hands were about to make contact, I violently threw myself backward and began rolling on the floor like a Premier League soccer player. Ah! The pain! They're beating me! Murder! Assault! I shrieked at the top of my lungs. While rolling, I expertly whipped out the ketchup packets, bit them open, and smeared the red sauce all over my nose, face, and the front of my white shirt. It looked like a horrific, bloody massacre. The bullies stood completely frozen, staring at their own hands. We didn't even touch him. Why is he on the floor? Why is there so much blood? Mason reacted first, jumping up and playing the hero. Stop! Why are you hitting him? How dare you hit my brother? I side-eyed him. Kid's got decent acting chops. But today I was taking down his minions. I continued to barrel roll across the floor, screaming even louder. The blood. They're beating me to death. My livestream chat absolutely exploded. Streamer is getting jumped! Who are those punks? Call the cops! I thought he was a billionaire's son. Who dares to beat him up in his own house? Thanks to the momentum from yesterday, the viewer count was massive. The clip of me bleeding out instantly hit the trending page. Upstairs, Evelyn heard the commotion and rushed down. Seeing me covered in blood, rolling on the floor surrounded by 4 dumbstruck teenagers, she immediately grasped the optics. Leo being brutally assaulted inside the Lancaster mansion? This is a massive slap to the family's face. At the exact same time, Arthur was at his office. Paranoid that I might go back to dumpster diving, he had been randomly checking my livestream. He tuned in exactly at the moment I was writhing in agony. Who dares beat Leo? Arthur roared in his office. Who dares touch my son? Recognizing the 4 boys as the sons of his subordinate suppliers, kids who basically fed off the Lancaster company's scraps, Arthur's fury went nuclear. They had the audacity to come into his house and beat his son? He didn't want to lower himself to deal with teenagers. He immediately called the fathers of all 4 boys, chewing them out and ordering them to get their asses to the Lancaster mansion immediately. Then he sped home to check on my injuries. Meanwhile, Evelyn quickly called the family doctor, Dr. Vance. Not knowing the extent of my injuries, she didn't dare move me, leaving me on the floor. She then dragged Luke and the gang outside and ripped them a new one. Doc. Vance arrived swiftly, popping open his medical kit. He gently dabbed at the blood on my face with a gauze pad, but as soon as he touched my mouth he paused. This isn't blood. In disbelief, he sniffed the gauze. It's literally Heinz ketchup. He looked down at me with immense confusion. I gave him a cheeky grin and whispered, $10,000. Make it sound fatal. I knew exactly what I was doing. In my past life, I learned that Dr. Vance had a severely ill daughter who constantly needed expensive treatments. That's why he quit a prestigious hospital job to become a private doctor for the ultra-rich. He loved money, but he had a strong moral compass and despised bullies. He caught on immediately. He gritted his teeth and whispered back, $20,000, and I'll diagnose you with internal bleeding. Deal, I whispered. We shared a silent nod of mutual understanding. Just as we finalized our transaction, Arthur marched into the mansion, followed closely by the 4 fathers. The dads already knew their sons had messed up. As soon as they entered, they spotted their boys. 2 dads pulled out their leather belts. The other 2 grabbed nearby wooden chairs. They each grabbed their respective son and unleashed hell. Belts cracked, chairs splintered, and the 4 bullies screamed in genuine agonizing pain. Arthur stood to the side, watching in cold silence, feeling a rush of satisfaction. I lay on the floor getting a front row seat to the WE SmackDown. Hearing their pathetic wails was music to my ears. You little shits thought you could get away with bullying me? Not today. After a few minutes of relentless beatings, the dads started to feel bad. Seeing their sons bruised and battered, their parental instincts kicked in, and their swings slowed down. Some even stopped. Figuring this was enough to appease Arthur, seeing the action movie losing its thrill, I cranked up the volume. Ah! It hurts! My organs! I'm dying! I'm fading away! Hearing my tragic screams, Arthur snapped out of it and glared at the dads who had stopped. Terrified by Arthur's wrath, the dads immediately picked up their weapons and started wailing on their sons even harder. Dr. Vance, seeing Arthur walk into the living room, began his Oscar-nominated performance. Mr. Lancaster, he shouted frantically. Leo has suffered severe internal trauma. His organs are bleeding. It's catastrophic. The 4 dads outside heard this and practically turned Super Saiyan, beating their kids at warp speed. Arthur panicked and rushed to my side. Seeing me covered in blood, he grabbed the doctor. Dr. Vance, is he going to make it? Can you save him? Dr. Vance pulled Arthur aside and whispered, Mr. Lancaster, relax. Leo is perfectly fine. Arthur froze. He's bleeding everywhere. You just said his organs are rupturing, doctor. Vance gave a dry cough and explained our little transaction, clarifying that the blood was ketchup and I didn't have a single scratch on me. Arthur stood there, dumbfounded, before anger set in. What the hell is this kid playing at? Faking a near-death experience for fun? Is he trying to mess with me? He stormed over to me and hissed, Leo, you little bastard, what are you doing? If you're not hurt, why are you putting on this circus act? I didn't break character. I glared right back and whispered, so what if I'm not hurt? They tried to hit me and they verbally abused me. I want to teach them a lesson. Is that a crime? If you think I'm wrong, go out there and expose me. Go ahead, tell them. Arthur shook with anger, but he realized my logic held up. Even if the kids didn't cause physical harm, they did try to jump his son inside his own house. Teaching them a brutal lesson wasn't wrong. By this point, the four dads had beaten their sons so badly the boys couldn't even stand. Unable to continue, they dropped their belts and walked into the living room. They forced apologetic smiles at Arthur, then looked at me, covered in blood. Seeing my state, they felt somewhat justified, considering their own sons looked even worse. Mr. Lancaster, we are so incredibly sorry, they groveled. We failed to discipline our kids. They've committed a grave sin. They turned to me. Leo, we are so sorry. We failed as fathers. Each of them pulled out a premium bank card and handed it out. Here are 4 cards, each with $20,000. Please, accept this as our formal apology, I sneered internally. 20K to settle this? In your dreams. I ignored them entirely and went back to rolling on the floor. The pain, let me die! Oh, the humanity! Arthur's eye twitched. He knew I was acting and felt I was pushing it too far. $80,000 total wasn't a bad payout for 0 injuries. But the dads didn't know the truth. Seeing me reject the money, and Arthur standing silently looking at the ceiling, they panicked, thinking the compensation was too low. They looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and pulled out 4 more cards. Leo, we completely understand. These are 4 more cards. Each has $100,000 on it. Please use this for your medical bills and recovery. Our sons caused this. We must take full responsibility. If you don't take it, we won't be able to sleep at night. I had originally planned to torture them a bit longer, but for $480,000 total, I can be merciful. Also, if they kept beating their kids, someone might actually die, and I didn't want the paperwork. I slowly stopped my barrel rolls. My hand shot out like a viper, snatching all 8 cards and shoving them into my pocket. Then, in a weak, forgiving voice, I murmured, "Uncles, you're too kind. It's just a little scuffle between kids, nothing serious. You really shouldn't have, but since you insist, I'd feel bad refusing." Arthur watched this masterclass in extortion and his facial muscles spasmed. This kid is a psychological terrorist. The 4 dads were utterly bewildered. Wait, wasn't he just dying of internal bleeding? How did he snatch those cards so fast? Why does he look totally fine now? Suspicion began to brew. They had just beaten their sons half to death and paid out nearly $500,000. Realizing they might have been played, rage bubbled in their chests. They wanted to snatch the cards back, but they looked at Arthur, who was still staring at the ceiling. Offering 0 objections, they hesitated. Rumor had it that Leo was an unloved outcast in the Lancaster family, which was why they allowed their sons to bully him in the first place. But this? Arthur was clearly backing him up. Realizing Arthur wasn't the indifferent father rumors made him out to be, they forced incredibly painful smiles. As long as you're okay, Leo. Please use the money to get well. We'll be taking our boys home now to discipline them further. They thought the transaction was complete and they could escape. But I wasn't done playing. I suddenly clutched my chest and broke into a violent hacking cough, acting like I was experiencing excruciating pain. When I pulled my hand away, my palm was covered in fresh blood. The dads jumped in shock. Wait, he was just fine. Why is he coughing up blood? I collapsed flat onto the floor, my eyes half closed, panting weakly. Uncles, even though it's just kids playing, your 4 noble sons did beat me. Seeing how nice you are, I didn't want to fight back. But at the very least, shouldn't they apologize to me? Personally, it's for your own good. If you don't teach them manners now, society will teach them later, and it won't be pretty. The dads were fuming. We beat them so badly they can't stand. And you want them to apologize? But seeing Arthur still staring silently at the ceiling, they had to swallow their pride. They marched back outside, grabbed their battered sons by the collars, dragged them into the living room, and tossed them at my feet. You little shits, apologize to Leo right now. How dare you hit him? The 4 boys, bruised and bleeding, couldn't even stand properly. They collapsed in front of me, but their eyes burned with defiance. Fight us one-on-one if you're a man, Luke spat. Calling our dads is a bitch move. I was ecstatic. Yes, keep talking trash, you little garbage cans. The madder you get, the sweeter the apology. I slowly dragged myself across the floor, groaning, oh, the agony, I'm fading. Arthur was also getting genuinely angry. Even if I was faking, these kids had tried to jump me, and they were still glaring at me with 0 remorse. He shot a lethal look at the fathers. Is this the kind of trash you raise? Look at how you've educated them. The dads shivered. They immediately kicked their sons in the ribs. Are you mute? Apologize! Do you want another beating? Luke and the others yelped in pain, trying to crawl away from the kicks, but they were too exhausted. Forced into submission, they gritted their teeth and forced out the most agonizing, humiliating smiles imaginable. Sorry, Leo, we were wrong, please forgive us. Their forced smiles were so ugly they looked like weeping demons. I smiled warmly. Oh, it's okay, I forgive you guys. Just don't bully your classmates anymore, okay? That's not what good boys do. Look how sad you made your poor fathers. The dads' faces twitched so hard they looked like they were having seizures. I was having the time of my life. You're right, Leo, Luke's dad forced out. We'll teach them better at home. They've apologized, and we've punished them. Can we take them home now? Before he finished his sentence, I flipped onto my stomach, dragging myself across the floor, staring in horror at the blood on my hands. Why am I coughing up so much blood? I wailed. Am I going to die? I don't want to die! I grabbed Dr. Vance's pant leg, sobbing hysterically. Doc, am I dying? Save me. Dr. Vance, enjoying his role in this soap opera, cleared his throat. Young Master Leo, please don't agitate yourself. You have severe internal bleeding. If your heart rate spikes, the ruptures will worsen. I can treat you, but if you stay this stressed, even I can't save you. His performance was flawless, carrying genuine, heavy sorrow. Arthur's eye twitched again. Faking a near-death experience is one thing, but getting a respected doctor to join the theater troupe? The four dads, unaware that Dr. Vance was a paid actor, started to doubt their own eyes. I was moving like a gymnast 5 minutes ago. How was I dying now? They stayed silent, waiting for my next demand. I dragged myself a bit further and looked up at them with tragic, tear-filled eyes. Uncles, I know you are good people. You wouldn't want to see a young man die, right? But I can't control it. Every time I look at Luke and the others, the trauma of the beating triggers my heart rate. I get so agitated, my organs might explode. You wouldn't want to be responsible for my death, right? Luke's dad caught on fast. Right, we'd never want that. Poor kid, we'll take them away right now so you don't have to look at them. He reached down to drag his son away. Ah, my heart, I screamed. I'm dying. I gasped for air and continued. Since you are such good people, could you have Luke, Vince, Tom, and Sam transfer out of Sunshine Private Academy? If I see them in the hallways, the PTSD will literally kill me on the spot. You won't let me down, right? The dads froze. Sunshine Academy was the most prestigious elite school in the city. Getting kicked out meant social suicide. They sent their kids there to network with the Lancaster heirs and to secure future business deals. Now I wanted them expelled? That was destroying their futures. Their faces turned incredibly dark. This kid is a greedy, bottomless pit. The bullies were equally furious. We already apologized. What more do you want? Luke's dad forced a smile. Leo, we'll make sure they avoid you at school. If you're in a room, they'll leave. You don't have to force them to transfer, right? I immediately slammed my face into the floor, smearing blood everywhere, and wailed toward the ceiling. Arthur Lancaster, I regret ever coming to this house. If I had stayed in the orphanage, I'd be thriving. I haven't even been here 2 years and I'm being beaten to death. The wealthiest family in the city, letting their son get bullied in his own home. What an absolute humiliation. Bullseye. I knew exactly how to trigger Arthur. I was a Lancaster. Me getting beaten was a direct slap to the Lancaster name. And if there's one thing Arthur cares about more than life itself, it's his ego. As expected, Arthur's face darkened like a thundercloud. He looked at the boys, seeing the sheer, unadulterated hatred in their eyes. They weren't sorry at all. They were definitely plotting revenge. They slapped the Lancaster family in the face, and now they want to keep their bright futures? Not on my watch. Leo is right, Arthur said coldly. We'll let the physical altercation slide today, but to ensure this never happens again, and for the sake of our family's ongoing business relations, you need to transfer your sons out of Sunshine Academy. The dads looked at the hateful glares. Their sons were shooting me, and they knew Arthur was right. These idiots were going to cause more trouble. But transferring schools? They had to swallow their bitter pills. Understood, Mr. Lancaster, they said through gritted teeth. We'll process their transfers immediately. Please, don't let this affect our business contracts. Arthur nodded, dismissing them. Seeing my mission accomplished, I quietly lay on the floor, letting Dr. Vance perform his life-saving fake CPR. The dads quickly dragged their ruined sons out of the mansion. The moment their cars pulled out of the driveway, I bounced up off the floor like a spring. My chest and face were still coated in ketchup, but I was grinning ear to ear. I pulled the 8 bank cards out of my pocket, examining them like rare Pokemon cards. To me, this was treasure, let alone this life. Even living to 40 in my past life, I had never seen this much money at once. $480,000! Arthur looked at my pathetic, money-grubbing expression with sheer disgust. Look at you, so thrilled over a few pennies. Leo, I let it slide today because the Luke kid swung first. But if you keep acting crazy and humiliating us, see if I ever help you again. You're so shallow, it's embarrassing. I held my $480,000 tightly, completely immune to his insults. Oh, nearly $500,000 is a few pennies to you? I asked, smiling brightly. If it's so little, why don't you hand over $500,000 right now? If you do, I'll admit you're right. If not, you have zero right to call my money pennies. Arthur was choked by my logic. Leo, is this how you speak to your father? I scoffed. Then hand over the cash. I've been here 2 years and haven't gotten a dime from you until that $30K a few days ago. Now you're acting all high and mighty about my $500,000? Please. Arthur was completely speechless. He pointed a shaking finger at me. Whatever, just watch your back and stop causing trouble or you're on your own. I ignored his impotent rage, gleefully hugging my cards and phone as I skipped upstairs. Arthur looked like he was going to have a stroke. Honestly, Arthur was starting to look at me differently. Almost like he preferred this chaotic, unhinged version of me over the old, silent, depressed Leo. Maybe he's a masochist, he thought, shaking his head to clear the absurd idea. Mason, who had watched the entire spectacle, saw that Arthur didn't punish me. This meant Arthur was subconsciously accepting my feral behavior. A vicious jealousy sparked in Mason's eyes. If only Leo had never come back. Just as I was about to leave the living room, Dr. Vance shouted anxiously, "Young Master Leo, you forgot something, right? You remember the 20K? Looking at his eager, panicked face, I laughed. Relax, Doc, I won't short you your 20K. Just give me a day or two to transfer this cash into my main account and I'll wire it to you. I waved the stack of cards at him. Don't worry, Leo is a rich man now. I won't scam you over a measly 20K. Dr. Vance's face bloomed into a radiant smile. Absolutely. You're a man of wealth now, I trust you completely. Back in my room, I hopped onto my live stream, apologizing to my fans. Hey guys, unfortunately, due to a minor health issue, there won't be any dumpster diving for the next few days. Even though they hadn't heard the audio of the living room showdown, they saw me get jumped and were incredibly sympathetic. Take care of yourself, streamer. The trash isn't going anywhere. Getting beaten up and still updating us? We don't deserve you. After chatting a bit, I ended the stream and took a well-deserved, incredibly deep nap with my 8 bank cards tucked safely under my pillow. I slept straight through to the evening, waking up with a growling stomach. I headed down for dinner. Lily was working late, so it was just Arthur, Evelyn, Chloe, Mason, and me. I ignored all of them, walked straight to the table, and surveyed the spread. Lobster fried rice, salmon salad, spicy steamed fish head, crispy fried fish, and some greens. Not bad. Without greeting anyone, I grabbed a bowl, scooped up a mountain of lobster rice, and started inhaling it. Right on cue, Chloe started her usual dinnertime performance. Leo, you have absolutely zero manners. Mom and Dad are sitting right here, and you just start stuffing your face without saying a word? I know you grew up in an orphanage without parents to teach you, but you're in the Lancaster family now. At the very least, you should greet your parents and thank them for raising you. Arthur and Evelyn nodded in silent agreement, clearly expecting me to pause my meal, bow my head, and express my undying gratitude. Chloe looked incredibly smug, winking at Mason to show off her dominance. I slowly placed my bowl down. I didn't take another bite. I stood up and silently walked out of the dining room. Chloe smirked, thinking she had successfully bullied me into skipping dinner, just like the old days, but what they didn't know was that I didn't leave because I was sad. I left because Chloe's mouth was incredibly filthy and it desperately needed a deep cleaning. I walked straight into the bathroom and grabbed the toilet brush. I inspected it. Still kinda gross. Perfect. Holding it behind my back, I strolled right back into the dining room. Chloe was the first to notice me return. She raised an eyebrow, surprised. Usually when she bullied me, I either sat in silence or ran away crying. Why was I back? Before she could open her mouth to launch another insult, and while Arthur and Evelyn were still expecting my apology, I made my move. I walked casually behind Chloe. She turned her head, smirking, opening her mouth to speak. Shove. I jammed the filthy toilet brush directly into her open mouth, using my other hand to grip her jaw so she couldn't close it. Chloe's eyes widened in sheer, unparalleled terror. Her mouth was filled with stiff, chemical-soaked bristles, accompanied by the overwhelming stench of public restroom. Her gag reflex triggered instantly. Everything she had just eaten came rocketing back up. She puked violently, but because the brush was wedged in her mouth, the vomit sprayed everywhere like a busted fire hydrant. I aggressively scrubbed the brush around her mouth while she threw up. Arthur and Mason finally snapped out of their shock and lunged forward to pull me off her. When they yanked me away, the brush popped out, removing the blockage. Chloe unleashed a tidal wave of vomit across the dining table. Evelyn gagged, covered her mouth, and bolted out of the room to throw up in the hallway. Arthur and Mason were completely grossed out, though trying to hold it together. Chloe, freed from the brush, continued to dry heave, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't speak, but her eyes shot pure, venomous hatred at me. Mason, suppressing his own urge to vomit, immediately started scolding me. Big brother, Chloe was just giving you some honest advice. Why would you do that to her? And with that thing? He gagged, swallowed hard, and continued. Was she wrong? Shouldn't we be filial to our parents and thank them for raising us? Arthur's face turned purple as he roared. Leo, you psycho. Your mother and I raised you, and this is how you repay us. Was your sister wrong? Do you not owe us your respect and gratitude? Do you think we owe you something? I looked at the toilet brush in my hand. Still not satisfying enough. I glanced at Chloe's hateful glare. Yep, her mouth is still too dirty. Holding the vomit-covered toilet brush, I took a step toward her. Chloe lost her damn mind. Exhausted and weeping, she scrambled backward on the floor, hiding behind Arthur's legs, using him as a human shield. Arthur exploded, seeing me ready to attack again. Leo, answer me. When your sister told you to thank us for raising you, was she wrong? We owe you nothing. You are a thankless, ungrateful wretch. I laughed coldly and swung the toilet brush in his direction. A few stray drops of vomit splattered through the air. Arthur instinctively recoiled, dropping the leather belt he had just picked up. Chloe unfortunately caught the splash zone. Completely broken, she let out a whimpering sob and passed out cold on the floor. What are you doing? Arthur screamed. Are you going to hit your own father? He pointed at me, practically foaming at the mouth. I regret the day you were born. I should have strangled you in the crib so I wouldn't have to die of high blood pressure today. Hearing that, I flipped the switch. I dropped the brush, twisted my face into a mask of pure anguish, and threw myself onto the floor, thrashing wildly. The brush clattered away, smearing more grossness on the tiles. Do you really think you don't owe me? I shrieked at the top of my lungs. Arthur Lancaster, you and Evelyn owe me everything! Arthur trembled with rage. You ungrateful bastard, tell me exactly what we owe you. We gave you life, we feed you. How does that make us owe you? I kept thrashing on the floor, screaming back. You do owe me! When I was 2 years old, you completely failed as parents and let me get snatched by human traffickers. I spent 13 years rotting in an orphanage, alone, while you did absolutely zero parenting. You failed your legal and moral obligations. Arthur's face turned green, but for a second he couldn't formulate a comeback. I didn't stop. The law explicitly states parents have a duty to protect and raise their minor children. You neglected me for over a decade. How do you not owe me? Arthur's eyes looked like they were going to pop out of his skull. The dining room was an absolute biohazard zone of vomit, broken dishes, and chaos. Unable to take the stench or my screaming any longer, he spun around and stormed out of the dining room. I suddenly felt bored. I tossed the toilet brush aside, dusted myself off, and walked back to my room, leaving them to clean up the apocalyptic mess. For the next few days, the Lancaster mansion was eerily quiet. It's funny how the world works. If you act crazy enough, the people around you suddenly become very polite and well-behaved. Finally, the new school semester started. Mason and I rode in the family's Rolls-Royce to Sunshine Private Academy. We were seniors now, entering the final sprint before the college entrance exams. Mason was the golden boy. Not just the top of our school, but the top student in the entire city. Me? I was at the bottom of the barrel. In my past life, before coming to the Lancasters, I actually had great grades. But after moving in, dealing with the family's neglect, and the severe bullying orchestrated by Mason at school, my grades plummeted into the abyss. On the first day of school, near the end of the fourth period, our homeroom teacher and literature professor, Mr. Ian Bates, glared at me. "Leo, come to my office after class." He announced class was dismissed and walked out without even checking if I was following. The whole class was used to this routine. Nobody blinked an eye. Feeling the cold stares of my classmates, especially Mason's fake concern masking pure malice, I knew my first school battle was about to begin. In my past life, Mr. Bates loved doing this. He'd call me to the office specifically during the lunch break when all the other teachers were present, performing his strict but caring educator routine for an audience. I stood up and followed him to the teacher's lounge. We stood in front of his desk. The other teachers were eating lunch or resting. Seeing me, they exchanged knowing glances. They recognized me as the perpetual screw-up. "Leo, look at your homework," Mr. Bates raised his voice dramatically. "Your handwriting is a mess. The answers are completely wrong. Do you even want to go to college? With this terrible attitude, how do you expect to succeed?" Basking in the admiring glances of his colleagues, Mr. Bates got more passionate, spit flying from his mouth. He was putting on a clinic on how to be a dedicated teacher, sacrificing his lunch break for a troubled youth. In reality, Mr. Bates was just picking on me. He knew Mason was the favored Lancaster son and I was the outcast. He saw that Mason secretly hated me, so he began bullying me a year ago, finding any excuse to humiliate me. Mason, in return, acted incredibly sweet to the teacher, validating Bates's choice. Plus, it made Bates look incredibly dedicated to the other staff. Win-win. "Why can't you be more like Mason?" Bates yelled, getting aggressive. "You're both Lancasters. He has excellent character, top grades, and helps his peers. You have terrible grades, zero friends, and a garbage attitude. Do you have no shame?" In his excitement, Mr. Bates shoved me hard in the chest. Perfect. I went totally limp, letting the shove carry my momentum, and crashed dramatically onto the floor. The entire lounge went dead silent. Mr. Bates froze, his hand still extended in a pushing motion. I lay on the floor, twitching my limbs and letting a little bit of spit foam at the corner of my mouth. Mr. Bates stared at his hand. "I didn't push him that hard. I've shoved him before and he was fine. Why is he dying?" The other teachers snapped out of it and rushed over. "Leo, are you okay? Wake up!" Someone glared at Mr. Bates. "Mr. Bates, we know you care, but you can't get physical. Look what you did to the poor kid." They didn't think he did it maliciously, just that he got too passionate. I knew simply falling over wouldn't ruin him. I needed the final blow. I weakly fluttered my eyes open. "Teachers, I think I just have low blood sugar. If I could just sit in a chair for a minute." A teacher immediately pulled Mr. Bates away and dragged his office chair over. They helped me sit down. Mr. Bates, terrified that he had just caught an assault charge, didn't dare protest. Sitting in the chair, I wasn't just resting. I was exactly where I needed to be. I knew a dark secret about Mr. Bates. He was a massive creep. He lusted after the female students, but because all the kids at Sunshine Academy had powerful parents, he didn't dare touch them. So he settled for stealing their underwear. For years, there had been rumors of a panty thief in the girls' dorms, but the school always brushed it off as girls just misplacing their laundry. In my past life, Bates was exposed 6 months from now when another teacher accidentally opened the top drawer of his desk, unleashing an avalanche of colorful lingerie. He kept it in his desk so he could admire it during work hours. I slumped weakly in his chair, covertly scanning the desk. The second and third drawers were slightly ajar, showing papers. The top drawer was shut tight. Bingo. While I was scheming, Mr. Bates was frantically defending himself to his colleagues. "I swear I didn't hit him. I just nudged him out of frustration and he just collapsed. He must be anemic." The teachers nodded sympathetically. "Don't worry, Ian. We know how dedicated you are." Mr. Bates sighed in relief. Crisis averted. From now on, verbal abuse only. Suddenly, I intentionally slid off the chair like I was fainting again, eyes wide with panic. I flailed my arms out, blindly grabbing for support, and my hand clamped firmly onto the handle of his top drawer. Mr. Bates turned around, saw my hand on the drawer, and his soul left his body. He knew exactly what was inside. He lunged toward me with terrifying speed, but he was blocked by 2 other teachers trying to catch me. This gave me the crucial half-second I needed. As my body hit the floor, I pulled hard. The drawer yanked open. A literal explosion of colorful, lacy silk underwear, red, pink, yellow, black, burst out of the overstuffed drawer, cascading onto the floor. Mr. Bates froze like a statue, his mind going completely blank. It's over, I'm dead. The other teachers stared in absolute horror. Why does Ian have a mountain of women's underwear in his desk? Someone connected the dots to the dorm rumors. Wait, is he the thief? Before anyone could process the situation, I sprang up from the floor, grabbed massive handfuls of the lingerie, and leaped over the desk. Oh my God! I screamed at the top of my lungs. Are these the missing girls' underwear? Is our homeroom teacher the dorm panty thief? Mr. Bates stood paralyzed. The other teachers panicked. They realized this needed to be contained immediately, or it would be a catastrophic scandal for the school. They exchanged glances, signaling to handle this internally. If they hushed it up, Bates might survive. But I had zero intention of letting him survive. Clutching the massive bouquet of stolen panties, I bolted out the door into the hallway. I have to show these to the girls in my class, I bellowed as I sprinted down the corridor. Ms. Bates told me I need to be more helpful to my classmates. I'm helping them find their lost lingerie. I ran like an Olympic sprinter, the colorful lace flapping majestically in the wind behind me. A mob of terrified teachers chased after me, begging, Leo, stop, don't be rash. Maybe those aren't theirs. Let's talk about this. I ignored them, my voice echoing through the school. As the afternoon classes were about to start, the hallways were packed with students. Suddenly, they witnessed a bizarre spectacle, me sprinting full speed with a rainbow assortment of lingerie, chased by a panicked herd of teachers. What is he holding? Is that underwear? I yelled to the crowd. Girls of Sunshine Academy, you're missing underwear. It was hoarded in the desk of Mere Ian Bates. Come claim your property or go. Check his office. The teachers chasing me wanted to cry. They had tried to tell me it wasn't the girls' underwear, but they definitely didn't tell me to broadcast it to the entire female student body. The cat wasn't just out of the bag, it was doing backflips in the courtyard. The students erupted. The girls, initially shocked, turned instantly furious. He said he found it in Mr. Bates's desk? That creep was the one stealing our stuff? This is disgusting. I'm going to his office right now. Me too. Let's see how many he stole. A massive mob of furious high school girls abandoned their classrooms and marched like a revolutionary army toward the teacher's lounge. By the time they arrived, half the school knew. The principal was sweating bullets. Realizing the school's reputation was on the brink of annihilation, I casually jogged back into my classroom. The students stared at me, dumbfounded. I ignored them, leaning against the wall to catch my breath before holding up the remaining pile of panties. Ladies of Class 12, I announced. I recovered a fraction of the stolen goods from Mr. Bates's desk. See if any of this is yours. The rest is still in his office. A tall, striking girl with a commanding presence stood up. Her name was Rachel, the undisputed alpha of the girls in our class. She had lost some stuff before but didn't care enough to investigate. Now she was livid. Leo, are you serious? You really found this in his desk? Dead serious, I replied. There's a mob heading to his office right now. Rachel didn't hesitate. She rallied the troops. Girls, we're gonna hunt that creep down. Move! The entire female population of the class stormed out, raging. I didn't expect anyone to come up and claim the underwear I was holding. It was too embarrassing in public. Plus, knowing Bates had touched them made them radioactive. I respectfully placed the pile on Rachel's desk, knowing she'd handle it properly as the boss. I sat down at my desk, exhausted but satisfied. Mr. Bates was finished. With the wealthy parents getting involved, he wouldn't just be fired. He'd likely face criminal charges. By the end of the day, the school announced Mr. Bates had been terminated immediately. Rachel had gathered all the evidence and was preparing a massive lawsuit with the other parents. If the school hadn't acted fast, the billionaire parents would have literally bought the school just to demolish it. The girls returned to class, their fury subsiding, and one by one they came up to my desk to apologize. Leo, if you hadn't exposed him, who knows what else that creep would have done. Thank you so much. I gave them my best humble awkward smile. The guys in the class were absolutely seething with jealousy. Seeing me, the class loser, suddenly surrounded by the prettiest, most popular girls in the school, some of whom were their crushes, was too much to bear. Rachel walked over, slamming her hand on my desk, nearly knocking over my water bottle. She looked at me with a fierce, approving grin. Leo, you did good today. If it weren't for you, we never would have caught that bastard. I'm sorry we misunderstood you before. But from today on, you're cool in my book. I, Rachel, am officially declaring you under my protection. Anyone messes with you, they answer to me. She shot a lethal glare at the boys who used to bully me. They instantly ducked their heads, pretending to study. Nobody messed with Rachel. The other girls cheered. Yeah, Leo is our friend now. Nobody touches him. I was genuinely a bit moved. In my entire life, nobody had ever stood in front of me and promised to protect me. Not at the orphanage and definitely not at the Lancaster house. I dropped the fake smile and looked at her seriously. Deal. Thanks in advance. Rachel laughed, slapping my back hard enough to dislocate a shoulder. Don't be so polite, dude. See ya. I completely ignored the intensely hateful glare coming from Mason across the room. Mason had been trying to woo Rachel for months, coveting her looks and her family's status, but she had always kept him politely in the friend zone. Seeing her actively protect me made him insanely jealous. That night, back at the Lancaster mansion, during dinner, Arthur frowned at me. Leo, we heard about what happened at school today. Even if your intentions were good, you need to be careful. Don't get involved in such filthy, scandalous matters. It's embarrassing. The Lancaster family shouldn't be associated with such dirty business, Evelyn chimed in. Exactly, it's disgusting. When people talk about this in the future, they'll associate you with that pervert teacher. It reflects poorly on our family. Why can't you be more like Mason? Focus on your studies and bring honor to the family name. Mason gave a humble fake smile. Mom, Dad, don't blame Big Brother. He's only been with us for 2 years. He doesn't understand high society etiquette or what's considered taboo. He'll learn. He shot me a smug, triumphant look. See? You might be a hero at school, but in this house, I am the golden child. Chloe eagerly nodded along. Ever since the toilet brush incident, she had been waiting for a chance to see me put in my place. Mason, feeling emboldened, continued. Since Big Brother doesn't know the rules, and you both are so busy, how about I spend an hour every night teaching him how to behave, what to do, what not to do? That way he won't embarrass the Lancaster family anymore. The implication was clear. I am superior, you are an embarrassment. Arthur beamed with pride. Mason, you are truly a sensible boy. It's your senior year, yet you're willing to sacrifice your study time to tutor your brother. You see the big picture. Leo, you should be thanking him, Evelyn smiled proudly. Exactly, Mason's time is so precious. Leo, you better show some gratitude. I slowly placed my chopsticks down. I stood up, grabbed the edge of the silk tablecloth, and yanked backward with all my strength. If you guys can't shut your damn mouths while eating, then nobody eats. Crash! Plates, bowls, and steaming hot food went flying. A bowl of scalding soup and a plate of greasy fried rice landed squarely on Mason and Chloe. Mason squeezed his eyes shut as a molten custard bun bounced off his forehead. He was dripping with beef broth and chili oil from head to toe. Chloe was covered in sticky sauce and wilted vegetables, looking like a swamp monster. Arthur and Evelyn, sitting on the opposite side, narrowly avoided the splash zone. They stared in absolute shock at the ruined dining room, then at my completely nonchalant expression. Lo, what the hell are you doing? Arthur roared. Mason was trying to help you and you assault him, you ungrateful psycho. Mason wiped grease from his eyes, suppressing his fury, and played the victim perfectly. Big Brother, I don't know what I did to offend you. Was it wrong to want to teach you our family rules? I just don't want you to embarrass Mom and Dad. Arthur slammed his fist on the table. Mason is right, look at you. You are a walking embarrassment to the Lancaster name. If you don't want to learn, fine. But flipping tables? I will not tolerate this behavior in my house. I grabbed the heavy oak dining chair next to me and smashed it against the wall. Crack! I swung it again, smashing it against the remaining plates on the table. I glared at Arthur and Evelyn, screaming like a lunatic. You think I'm an embarrassment? Fine! Let's go to a notary right now and sever our legal ties. From this day forward, I, Leo Lancaster, have nothing to do with this family. Alive or dead, we are strangers. Let's go. Are you too scared to do it? I smashed the chair against the floor until the legs splintered into pieces. Arthur and Evelyn flinched, terrified by my sheer raw aggression. It looked less like I was smashing a chair and more like I was visualizing smashing them. What are you doing? Arthur yelled, taking a step back. Who are you trying to scare? Do you really think you can survive without the Lancaster wealth? If you want to stay in this family, you stop acting like a lunatic and start bringing us honor. We don't raise useless trash. Evelyn glared at me. Do you think throwing a tantrum scares us? The Lancaster family is a billionaire's dynasty. You need us. We don't need you. I looked at them coldly. You promised me a home, but I've received absolutely nothing but abuse. If you truly wanted to give me a good life, you would have jumped off a cliff by now. My anger boiled over. I picked up a broken chair leg and slammed it against the wall, creating a massive dent. You said the orphanage was a bad place? Explain the absolute hell you've put me through here. Tell me, Arthur! Tell me, Evelyn. What exactly is so great about this miserable family that I should be grateful for? Arthur was at a complete loss for words. He looked at Evelyn, his eyes full of blame. Evelyn, knowing her past neglect was the root of this, couldn't meet his gaze. I kept smashing things. The walls were dented. The table was ruined. Decades of repressed anger and humiliation were finally exploding. Arthur's head throbbed. I was acting like a rabid dog, completely devoid of reason. He wanted to punish me, but he remembered the knife, the fire, the crazy behavior. He simply didn't dare push me over the edge. You ungrateful bastard, Arthur spat. I don't care anymore. Be an embarrassment if you want. I wash my hands of you. He turned and stormed out of the dining room. Evelyn quickly followed him. Only Mason, Chloe, and I remained in the ruined room. I dropped the broken chair leg, turned to them, and smiled pleasantly. The two of them, still covered in food and grease, froze. Seeing me smile at them while holding a splintered piece of wood, absolute terror seized them. Without saying a single word, they both scrambled backward, slipped on the greasy floor, recovered, and sprinted out of the dining room like they had seen a demon. I stood in the wreckage, shaking my head. Cords! Could have just been quiet, but no, you had to make me go crazy. For the next few days, the Lancaster mansion was blissfully peaceful. Friday night arrived. Lily, who usually worked late, was actually home for dinner. All attention was focused on Arthur as he beamed with excitement. Tomorrow is Saturday, Arthur announced grandly. The Lancaster Group is hosting a massive corporate gala. Every top executive and all our major partners will be there. Lily, have you prepared your corporate strategy presentation? Tomorrow is a huge networking opportunity for you. Lily nodded seriously. Don't worry, Dad. I'm fully prepared. I won't let you down. Arthur nodded, turning to Chloe. Chloe, dress to impress tomorrow. I'm inviting several young elite entrepreneurs. Who knows, you might find a worthy husband. Chloe rolled her eyes playfully. Dad, please. I'm Chloe Lancaster. I look gorgeous without even trying. Tomorrow, men will be lining up to kiss my feet. Evelyn laughed. Don't be silly, dear. I've hired a stylist for you. You'll be the star of the night. Arthur finally looked at Mason. Mason, this gala is different from the usual parties. The guests are high-level players. You need to learn how to network, maintain relationships and leverage connections, understand? Mason nodded solemnly. Yes, Dad. I won't disappoint you. I'll make you proud. Arthur laughed boisterously. The whole family was showering each other with praise and validation. Right at that moment, I loudly interrupted. Wow, everyone sounds so excited. Did you guys forget about me again? The atmosphere in the dining room instantly flatlined. The laughter died, replaced by an awkward, tense silence. I sat at the table, watching the Lancasters deliberately avoid eye contact with me. I sneered. Well, speak up. Did you forget about me, Leo Lancaster? Or did you just not want me there? My voice grew louder, my tone aggressive. Ever since I returned to this family, whenever there was a public event, I was explicitly excluded. The reason was simple. They thought the orphanage kid would embarrass them. In my past life, I silently accepted this, desperate to win their approval. I thought if I stayed out of their way, they'd eventually love me. But the new me? I operate on one simple rule. If you don't let me live in peace, I will make sure you live in hell. I stood up, glaring at them. I said, speak up. Why did you exclude me? Lily couldn't take it anymore. She slammed her hands on the table and stood up, looking down at me with supreme arrogance. Leo, why are you yelling? You know exactly why we didn't invite you. You grew up in an orphanage. You don't know basic etiquette. How are you supposed to mingle with billionaires? If you offend a CEO and cost the company a contract, can you afford to pay for it? Stop acting like a child. Tomorrow, find a place to hide and do not show your face at the gala. I laughed darkly in my head. Lily, you think being the eldest sister gives you power over me? You clearly forgot who you're dealing with. My eyes instantly went red. I began to tremble, my voice dropping to a fragile, shaky whisper. So, you all look down on me. If you despise me so much, why did you even bring me back? Why? My voice suddenly spiked into a demonic shriek. Why? I hate you. I hate all of you. Go to hell. Arthur had been staying silent, letting his eldest daughter handle my insanity. But hearing my outrageous curse, he snapped. He stood up, ready to verbally obliterate me. But before he could speak, I rolled my eyes completely into the back of my head, exposing only the whites, and collapsed backward out of my chair, hitting the floor with a thud. Arthur flinched. Wait, did Lily actually anger him to death? His rational mind told him this was impossible. He knew I was dramatic, but seeing me lying there, he cautiously stepped forward to check on me, just in case he needed to call an ambulance. The moment he got close, I violently shot up from the floor, nearly headbutting him. Arthur stumbled backward. I knew it. He's playing crazy again. Leo, you ungrateful. I stood rigidly straight, my arms hanging awkwardly at my sides. My eyes were still rolled back, showing only the whites. I slowly opened my mouth, and when I spoke, the voice that came out was not mine. It was an eerie, gravelly, distinctively feminine voice. You little brat, I haven't beaten you in decades, and look how you've turned out. Leo is my precious grandson. Why are you beating and cursing him? If you dare touch Leo again, I swear to God, I will crawl out of the underworld and beat you so hard you'll be paralyzed. Arthur's face drained of all color. He grabbed the edge of the table to stop himself from collapsing. The voice, the cadence, the exact phrasing. It was his dead mother. His mind went entirely blank. Is my mother actually possessing Leo from beyond the grave? His legs turned to jelly. He couldn't speak. Without breaking character, I took a stiff, jerky hop over to Lily. I stared at her with my pure white eyes. The dining room descended into absolute panic. Evelyn was paralyzed with fear. Back when I was kidnapped, her mother-in-law had made her life a living hell, cursing her daily for being a useless mother. It was the darkest period of Evelyn's life. When the old woman finally died 13 years ago, Evelyn felt liberated. Seeing the ghost of her mother-in-law manifest now, Evelyn collapsed onto the floor in sheer terror. Chloe and Mason, who were too young to remember the grandmother well, were less traumatized but still deeply freaked out. Lily, however, was trembling uncontrollably. I hopped closer to her, grabbed her by the hair, and delivered a flurry of brutal slaps to her face. Lily, my good granddaughter, your parents' good daughter. You watched your baby brother get taken by traffickers and didn't say a single word, and now you dare to bully my precious grandson? Watch how I deal with you, you absolute animal. Smack, smack, smack. I slapped her several more times. Arthur, sitting paralyzed on the floor, heard my words and froze. Wait, Lily saw Leo getting kidnapped and didn't cry for help. Is that possible? She's his biological sister. How could she just watch? Despite his terror, Arthur looked at Lily, desperate to see if she would deny it. But Lily's face was already swelling from the slaps. Her eyes were filled with profound guilt and absolute terror. She made zero attempt to fight back. You animal! I'll beat you to death! I channeled the dead grandmother perfectly. How could you watch your own brother get taken? You venomous snake! I raised my hand and slapped her again. Crack! Her cheeks swelled like a balloon. Lily broke down, crying. Grandma, I didn't mean to. I was just a kid. I didn't know what was happening. Please, since Leo came back safely, forgive me. Shut up! I roared in the gravelly voice. You were 10 years old. How could you not know? You just didn't want your brother to come home. I sneered at her. Did you think I loved him more than you? So you let them take him? You vicious little brat! I slapped her so hard she spun around. Don't you dare say he came back safely because of luck! That has nothing to do with you! Asking for forgiveness? You deserve to be beaten! Arthur, seeing his eldest daughter getting pummeled, finally snapped out of his shock. He was terrified, but he couldn't let her be beaten to death. Mom! He cried out. Mom, please! Lily is your granddaughter too. For my sake, please spare her. I carelessly tossed Lily aside and jerked my body toward Arthur. You're not a good person either. I grabbed him by the hair. You have the nerve to call me Mom? Did you forget how much I loved Leo? You dare look down on my grandson. Treat him like garbage. Beat him. You're the one who should be looked down on. You should be beating yourself, you useless failure. I unleashed a combo of slaps onto Arthur's face. Arthur went completely stiff, letting his dead mother slap him repeatedly without a hint of resistance. At this moment, Mason saw a golden opportunity to earn brownie points. He stood up bravely. Grandma, please stop hitting Dad. I'll take his punishment for him. Arthur was moved to tears. Even though Mason was adopted, stepping up to take a beating for him in this supernatural crisis filled his heart with warmth. What a good son. Just as Arthur was feeling touched, my eerie voice cut through the room. Don't call me Grandma. I am not your grandma. I don't know what random gutter you crawled out of, but you are absolutely not a Lancaster. Arthur was stunned. Mason was caught in the crossfire. I'll beat you to death, you imposter. I raised my hand to slap Arthur again. If you dare mistreat my grandson again, I will drag you to hell. Mason, desperate to secure his inheritance, doubled down. Grandma, you can't say that. Even if I don't share your blood, I am excellent and filial. I am Dad's son. He started crying for dramatic effect. Dad, don't worry. I live as a Lancaster and I'll die as a Lancaster ghost. No matter what happens, I will always be your son. Arthur looked at Mason, tears streaming down his face. Mason, you're right. You will always be my son. The scene was so nauseatingly melodramatic I actually wanted to throw up. Their fake father-son bonding was revolting. I immediately raised my hand and slapped the back of Arthur's head as hard as I could. Mom, please stop! Arthur yelped, covering his head. I'm going to die! Good. Better if you die, the grandmother voice spat. I only recognize Leo as my grandson. The rest of you can screw off. If you mistreat him again, I'll take your life. I know. I'll listen to you. Please stop hitting me, Arthur whimpered. He had originally wanted to punish me for flipping the table, but now he swallowed every complaint. Evelyn couldn't take it anymore. She had been hiding in the corner, but seeing that her mother-in-law wasn't actually using lethal force, her fear shifted to annoyance. Mom, you're being unfair, Evelyn argued. Mason is the hope of the Lancaster family. He's brilliant, and what about Leo? He doesn't study, he acts crazy, and he embarrasses the family name. I laughed a dry, chilling cackle. I let go of Arthur's hair and took a stiff hop directly in front of Evelyn. Seeing my terrifying wide-eyed stare up close, all the color drained from Evelyn's face. I grabbed her perfectly styled hair and yanked her head up. Evelyn, did you think I forgot about you? I hissed. You useless, gold-digging waste of space. If you weren't so incompetent at watching your own child, my grandson wouldn't have been kidnapped and suffered for 13 years. Slap! Finally, my grandson comes home, and instead of making amends, you abuse him. You lock him in a damp closet. You give him no clothes, no money. With every sentence, I delivered a brutal slap. Evelyn's cheeks swelled up and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. And you say Mason is brilliant, I sneered. How dare you treat my grandson like this? I'm sorry, I was wrong, Evelyn sobbed, begging for mercy. Right on cue, Mason activated his hero complex again. Don't hit my mom, hit me instead. I looked at him with zero sympathy. I dropped Evelyn, hopped over to Mason and grabbed him by the collar. You want a beating? Wish granted. In my past life, this fake brother orchestrated my downfall behind the scenes. This time, I wasn't going to let him play the innocent victim. You little stray mutt, I growled in the grandma voice. You want a beating? Happy to oblige. I unleashed a hurricane of slaps across Mason's face. You eat the Lancaster food, live in the Lancaster house, spend the Lancaster money, and you have zero gratitude. You dare resent the true heir, you ungrateful parasite. You. Smack! Smack! Mason had never been hit like this in his life. Arthur and Evelyn had never laid a finger on him. He glared at me with pure hatred, but when he met my dead white eyes, a shiver ran down his spine. Is this really Leo? Or is it actually the dead grandmother? His hatred dissolved into sheer terror. He lost all courage to fight back. I wasn't going to let him off easy. I pulled his face 2 inches from mine, letting him get a good look at my terrifying eyes, still glaring at me. You ungrateful leech! I slapped him again so hard his lips split open. Mason completely gave up. He looked at Arthur for help, but Arthur was covering his own head, looking at the floor. He looked at Evelyn, but she was huddled in a corner sobbing. Mason was utterly alone. I continued slapping him until his face was bruised and swollen like a rotten plum. I finally stopped, worried that if I hit him any harder, I might actually give him a concussion and catch a real charge. I suddenly whipped my head toward Chloe, who was stealthily trying to crawl under the table. Seeing my terrifying gaze lock onto her, her soul nearly left her body. Having just witnessed Mason's brutal beatdown, she had zero doubts that this was a paranormal event. Grandma, I'm sorry. Chloe dropped to her knees, crying hysterically. I shouldn't have framed Leo. I shouldn't have insulted him. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. She started violently slapping her own face, sobbing uncontrollably. I paused, genuinely surprised. I didn't expect her to be this proactive. Since she was doing my job for me, I left her alone and hopped back over to Arthur. Chloe breathed a massive sigh of relief. Arthur flinched violently as I approached. Mom, please don't hit me. I know I was wrong. I promise I will treat Leo well from now on. I gave him a slow, deadpan stare. Then, I collapsed backward, passing out on the floor. A few moments later, I slowly fluttered my eyes open. I groaned, rubbing my head, acting like I was confused. Then my eyes widened as if the memories were flooding back. I jumped to my feet, glaring at the bruised and battered family. You guys really look down on me, don't you? I screamed, resuming my earlier tantrum. Since you despise me so much, we are cutting ties. Right now. I'm done. I looked absolutely furious, panting heavily. The family, who had just survived a paranormal beatdown, was terrified. The oppressive aura of the dead grandmother was still fresh in the room. Arthur, suppressing his own fear and pain, forced a painful smile and rushed forward to hold my arm. Leo, don't be rash. Please don't say that. We are family. How could we cut ties? Who said we looked down on you? You are the only biological son of the Lancaster family. You are our greatest treasure. Arthur looked frantically at the rest of the family. Who dares look down on Leo? Evelyn caught on immediately. She rushed over, her voice sickly sweet. Exactly, Leo. Your father is right. You are our treasure. Nobody looks down on you. She shot frantic signals to Lily, Chloe, and Mason. The three of them quickly joined the chorus. We would never. Leo is our brother. We respect him so much. I pointed a finger directly at Lily. She literally just said I would embarrass the family at the gala. Arthur didn't hesitate. He marched over to Lily and delivered 2 massive slaps to her face. Lily's face, already swollen from the ghost, burned bright red. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she didn't dare fight back, terrified of summoning the grandmother again. Lily, Arthur roared. How dare you disrespect Leo? He is the only son. He is worth 10 of you. Do you look down on him? Lily lowered her head, whispering, No, I don't. I misspoke. Arthur nodded in satisfaction and turned back to me with a strained smile. See, Leo, I disciplined your sister. She doesn't dare look down on you. Nobody does. Now please, calm down. Let's not talk about cutting ties or dying, I sneered internally. I wasn't done yet. I suddenly pointed at Chloe. Chloe gasped, immediately dropped to her knees and started slapping herself again. I'm sorry, Leo, I was wrong. I will never disrespect you again. Arthur smiled. See, Leo? Everyone has learned their lesson. Now, can you please stop being angry? I looked at him coldly. Then I pointed my finger directly at Mason. Mason's eyes widened in horror. Big brother, I didn't say anything. I swear I didn't disrespect you. You didn't, I sneered. Didn't you just say you wanted to teach me how to behave? What gives an adopted kid the right to teach the actual heir? If that's not disrespect, what is? Arthur had initially wanted to see how Mason would defend himself, but seeing my anger flare up, he didn't risk it. He grabbed Mason by the collar and slapped him across his already ruined face. Shut up and stop arguing, Arthur yelled. Leo is right. Mason, you will fix your attitude. Smack, smack. Mason clutched his face, keeping his head down in silent fury. Arthur returned to me. Leo, you see, everyone is disciplined. Are we good now? I wasn't finished. I slowly turned my finger and pointed it at Evelyn. Evelyn froze. She didn't expect me to target her. She looked down at me, a complex mix of emotions flashing across her face. Then she slowly raised her own hand and slapped herself a few times. Leo, Mommy was wrong, she whispered. I promise I will treat you well from now on. I won't look down on you. Please, just calm down. Don't scare Mommy like this. Then she turned to Arthur. Arthur, look, the whole family has been disciplined. Leo must be satisfied now, right? I didn't move. I simply locked eyes with Arthur. Arthur's face turned completely black. Rage boiled in his veins. This little bastard is pushing his luck. He raised his hand to hit me, but Evelyn grabbed his arm. Arthur, just give yourself a few light slaps. Show him you're sincere. I knew this was Evelyn getting revenge for me, making her slap herself. She was dragging Arthur down with her. Arthur gritted his teeth, raised his hand and delivered a few crisp slaps to his own face. The corner of his mouth bled slightly. The sharp sound of the slaps echoed in the dining room. I knew this was the absolute limit. If I pushed any further, the illusion would break, and my revenge plan would backfire. I slowly stretched my arms, acting like I had finally calmed down. Fine, since you guys are so terrified of me leaving, and even willing to beat yourselves up to prove it, I'll stay. I don't care about dying, but for your sakes, I won't drag you all down with me. Hearing this, the Lancaster family let out a collective, exhausted sigh. Nobody wanted to smile. Looking at each other's bruised and swollen faces, they all looked equally pathetic. I turned around and walked out of the dining room, leaving them to stew in their humiliation. Back in their bedroom, Evelyn finally spoke up. Arthur, was Leo faking it? Your mother has been dead for 13 years. How could she possibly show up and beat us half to death? Arthur collapsed onto the bed. If you thought he was faking, why didn't you say anything? Why did you just let my mother beat you? Now that she's gone back to the afterlife, what's the point of bringing this up? Evelyn forced a smile. I was scared in the moment, but thinking about it now, it doesn't make sense. Why would she come back just for Leo? Why wouldn't she? Arthur retorted. My mother loved Leo the most. She died of a broken heart because we couldn't find him. Now that he's back, and she saw how poorly you treat him, of course she'd come back to defend him. He sat up and glared at her. Evelyn, I know you favor Mason, but don't forget Leo is your biological son. Don't make it so obvious or you'll summon my mother again and you'll regret it. Evelyn looked in the mirror at her swollen face, her heart filled with resentment. Arthur, shouldn't we hire a priest to check things out? Arthur narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Don't worry. I won't do anything to your mother, she clarified. But if Leo can summon her, what if he can summon other darker spirits? He's acting crazy lately. What if he accidentally brings a demon into the house? We need to suppress his abilities. Arthur paused. Her logic was sound. He believed his mother wouldn't truly harm the family, but other spirits were a different story. Fine, you handle it. I'm too busy with work. Let me know the results. He sighed. Also, cancel tomorrow's gala attendance. Our faces are too bruised to be seen in public. A few days later, I returned to the mansion after school and instantly sensed something was wrong. Mason had been walking with me all day but hadn't spoken a word. Now he was smiling at me, a nasty, malicious smile that practically screamed, "Your good days are over." I frowned. I didn't know what they were planning, but it was definitely a trap. I walked into the living room. Chloe was sitting on the sofa. She had been avoiding me like the plague for days, but today she looked at me with a cold, mocking smirk. Just then, Evelyn walked downstairs, accompanied by a man. He was dressed in full Taoist priest robes, sporting a long beard, thick eyebrows, and carrying a wooden sword strapped to his back. He looked like a master of the mystic arts. I instantly understood. They hired a fake exorcist to deal with me. Looks like they spent a pretty penny on this guy. I didn't say a word and casually sat on the sofa. Let's see what this clown can do. Evelyn led the priest over, smiling brightly. Leo, this is Master Castor, a renowned spiritual leader. Mommy invited him to make protective talismans for everyone in the family, but before he makes yours, he needs to understand your spiritual state. Just cooperate with him. Do whatever he asks, and the talisman will be incredibly effective. I nodded innocently. Okay, Mom. I'll be good. Evelyn looked extremely satisfied, shooting a thumbs up to Mason and Chloe, who looked back with admiration. But my gut told me this was no simple talisman ritual. Master Castor put on his best wise sage act. Don't be afraid, young Master Leo. The process is very simple. Just follow my lead. Yes, Master Castor, I smiled harmlessly. Castor observed me. Evelyn had warned him that I was a rebellious, unhinged psycho, but seeing me act so obedient, he thought she had exaggerated. Easy money, he thought. He drew his wooden sword and started dancing around me, chanting gibberish and occasionally waving the sword near my face. 5 minutes later, he stopped, pulled a yellow paper talisman from his pocket, lit it on fire, and dropped the ashes into a prepared bowl of water. He waved the bowl around me, sprinkling a few drops on my head. Another 5 minutes passed. Finally, he stopped and handed me the bowl of ashy water, smiling. Young Master Leo, this Holy Spirit water is specially brewed for you. Drink it and it will ward off all evil and sickness. I took the bowl and brought it to my lips. Evelyn, Chloe, and Mason stared at me with bated breath, their eyes wide with anticipation. Castor watched closely. Seeing me tilt the bowl and my throat bob, they all finally exhaled in relief. But their relief lasted exactly 1 second. Suddenly, I dropped the bowl. It shattered on the marble floor. I clutched my stomach, collapsed, and started writhing in agony, screaming bloody murder. Evelyn leaped up in shock, her face draining of color. She had paid Castor to slip me a mild neurosuppressant to make me docile and sluggish, not poison me. She glared at Castor, trembling with rage. Castor was equally panicked. He only used a mild sedative. Why was I having a lethal reaction? Was the drug expired? While they were panicking, I suddenly sprang up, clutching my stomach, and sprinted into the first-floor bathroom. Everyone exhaled. Oh, it just causes diarrhea. Little did they know, I hadn't swallowed a single drop. I faked the whole thing. Inside the bathroom, I got to work. A few minutes later, I emerged quietly, carrying a large plastic basin filled with a diluted, ungodly yellow cocktail of toilet water and human waste. I crept back into the living room. Evelyn, Castor, Mason, and Chloe were happily chatting, completely unaware of my return. Without a second thought, I hurled the basin forward. Splash! The cursed yellow biohazard soup drenched all 4 of them from head to toe. A nauseating, gag-inducing stench instantly filled the air. They froze for a second before the smell registered. What is this? They shrieked, pinching their noses. They looked down at the chunky yellow liquid clinging to their clothes and hair. Evelyn, having experienced a similar trauma recently, recognized it instantly. Her face turned chalk white. It's feces! All 4 of them violently gagged, their stomachs doing backflips. I stood at a safe distance, laughing maniacally. Why are you guys mad? I'm just looking out for you. Master Castor made this Holy Spirit water especially for me. But I didn't want to hog all the blessings. I wanted to share the good fortune with my beloved family. Aren't I thoughtful? Where's my thank you? 4 pairs of murderous eyes glared at me. Evelyn opened her mouth to scream, but the moment she did, a few drops of the yellow liquid dripped from her hair and directly onto her lips. Her eyes crossed. She turned around and violently vomited onto the expensive rug. Mason, Chloe, and Castor couldn't take it anymore. Pinching their noses, they scattered like roaches. Mason and Chloe bolted upstairs to their private en-suite bathrooms. Castor, having no assigned room, sprinted straight for the first-floor guest bathroom. He rushed in, but he didn't realize I was prepared. The moment he stepped inside, I slammed the door shut and jammed a heavy wooden mop handle through the exterior door handles, locking him in. Then, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Hello? Police? Yes, someone just broke into my house and tried to poison me with fake drugs. Hearing me call the cops, Castor panicked. He frantically pushed against the door, but the mop handle held firm. Young Master Leo! He cried out from inside. Let me out! I'm sorry! I shouldn't have listened to Madame Evelyn and tried to drug you. I leaned against the wall, casually scrolling on my phone. Drug me? Master Castor, didn't you say it was Holy Spirit water? If it's just holy water, what are you afraid of? Just explain it to the cops. You didn't hurt anyone, right? Castor started weeping in despair. Leo, please, it wasn't holy water. It was just dirty water with paper ashes. It wouldn't have hurt you. Do I look like an idiot? I scoffed. Soon, police sirens wailed outside. I ran to greet them, leading 2 officers into the living room. I pointed to the bathroom door. Officer, the suspect is in there. And this. I handed them a plastic bag containing a sample of the drugged water I had covertly scooped up before tossing the bowl. Is the poisoned water he tried to force feed me? Please test it. The officers took the evidence with grave expressions. They unjammed the door and dragged the miserable, reeking Master Castor out. Despite being covered in biohazard soup, the cops professionally cuffed him. God bless the police force, I thought. As they were about to leave, I asked innocently, Officer, what about my mom? She hired him and was an accomplice. Aren't you arresting her too? The 2 cops looked at each other, clearly never having dealt with a kid trying to arrest his own mother. Leo, based on your statement, your mother might have been a victim of fraud herself. We'll take him in for interrogation. If your mother was truly scammed, she won't be charged as long as she cooperates. I sighed in disappointment. I had hoped to see Evelyn in cuffs, but she got incredibly lucky. Just then, Evelyn walked downstairs. She had showered, changed into fresh clothes, and done her makeup. Seeing me, she was about to march over and rip my head off, but then she saw the police escorting Master Castor out the door. She froze, panic flashing in her eyes. Leo, did you call the cops? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Yup! I smiled coldly. Scammers who sell fake drugs need to be locked up. Otherwise, they'll just keep hurting people. Right, Mom? I locked eyes with her. Every parasite eventually gets what's coming to them. Evelyn shook with rage, her face twisting, but she didn't dare say a word with the police outside. She quickly turned to go back upstairs. Phew, it reeks! I yelled after her. Mom, you still smell like a sewer. Evelyn missed a step and nearly tumbled down the stairs. Watching her humiliating retreat, I burst out laughing. 2 days later, the police lab results came back. The holy water contained a dangerous, irreversible neurotoxin designed to impair cognitive function and motor skills. Basically, it was a drug to make someone permanently slow and docile. Unfortunately, Evelyn walked away completely clean. The police concluded she genuinely believed she was buying a spiritual blessing and was unaware of the drugs. However, she didn't escape entirely unpunished. When Arthur found out, he was furious at her stupidity. But to protect the family's reputation, he didn't pursue charges. Instead, he claimed he was angry and moved to a hotel for a few days. In reality, everyone knew the truth. No matter how many times Evelyn showered, Arthur swore he could still smell the biohazard soup on her, and it made him want to vomit. Evelyn hated me with a burning passion. Saturday arrived. The Lancaster corporate gala was scheduled for 3 p.m. Arthur, for the sake of appearances, returned to the mansion. But the moment he walked in, he kept a solid 10-foot distance from Evelyn, sitting on the farthest sofa and occasionally wrinkling his nose. Evelyn was furious but couldn't say anything. Suddenly, a loud, obnoxious voice echoed through the entryway. Sis, brother-in-law, I'm here! In walked a sleazy, arrogant, middle-aged man with dark circles under his eyes and a weak, sickly posture. It was Evelyn's younger brother, Uncle Eugene. Evelyn's face lit up. She loved this useless brother of hers because he always did her dirty work. In my past life, whenever Evelyn hinted that she was unhappy with me, Eugene would use his status as an elder to berate and even physically hit me. As I walked downstairs, Eugene spotted me and immediately scowled. Leo, you little brat, you see your uncle and don't even greet me? God, orphans have zero manners. Arthur frowned but stayed silent. Evelyn felt a surge of vindication. Finally, someone to put him in his place. Lily and Chloe watched eagerly, hoping Eugene would smack me. I paused on the stairs and smiled. Uncle Eugene? The guy was a scumbag. In my past life, he acted like my boss, but due to his wildly irresponsible personal life, he eventually contracted an incurable STD and died miserably. You want to pick a fight with me today? Let's collect some interest on that debt. I walked toward him. When I was about 3 feet away, I suddenly tripped. I flailed wildly, falling forward directly at him. Eugene startled and instinctively tried to dodge, but in my panic, I reached out to grab something to break my fall. I grabbed his belt, and I pulled hard. Eugene's pants and underwear were violently yanked down to his ankles. Instantly, an ungodly, putrid smell filled the living room. The entire family froze, their eyes instinctively darting to the source. The sight was horrific. His lower half was covered in a grotesque garden of highly contagious, unmentionable STDs that looked like rotting cauliflower. "Oh my God!" the family screamed in unison. They covered their noses, their faces draining of blood, and scrambled backward as fast as humanly possible. Lily, Chloe, and Mason completely lost it. They sprinted to the entryway, grabbed the industrial-strength disinfectant spray, and started aggressively hosing themselves and each other down. "EW! So gross!" Mason yelled, dry heaving. Eugene looked down, his face turning an apocalyptic shade of green. Before he could even pull his pants up, he covered his crotch and scuttled behind the sofa like a crab, but the movement only wafted the stench further. Every eye in the room was fixed on the sliver of exposed skin. Several people started actually vomiting. Hiding behind the sofa, Eugene's eyes were bloodshot with shame and fury. His darkest, most humiliating secret had just been broadcast in high definition to his entire family. From this day forward, they would view him as a walking biohazard. He glared at me with murderous intent. "Leo, you little bastard! You did that on purpose! I'll kill you! You ruined me!" He raised his fist, ready to charge out and attack me. But realizing his pants were still around his ankles and a massive tear exposed his shame, he froze, trapped behind the couch, suffocating in his own rage. I stood up, dusting off my hands, looking the picture of innocence. "What are you talking about? On purpose? I have no idea what you mean." Then I pinched my nose and added loudly, "But seriously, whatever that is, it is disgusting. Is that highly contagious?" The family panicked even harder at the word contagious. "Uncle," I yelled, playing the concerned nephew, "you know you have a severe infectious disease and you still come to our house? Are you trying to infect us? You're that evil to your own family?" Eugene trembled with rage, frantically trying to defend himself. "You're talking bullshit. My doctor said it'll clear up in a few days. It's not contagious. Leo, you're framing me." His explanation only made them more nauseous. Arthur couldn't take it anymore. "Eugene, get the hell out! You are not welcome in the Lancaster house!" Eugene was stunned. "Brother-in-law, please?" Arthur's voice was ice cold. "Contagious or not, you are disgusting. Get out." Eugene looked desperately at Evelyn, praying his beloved sister would defend him. But Evelyn backed away further, intentionally avoiding his gaze. Her heart was ice cold. He looked at his nieces and nephew. They were standing 10 feet away, spraying themselves with Lysol, refusing to even look in his direction. Realizing that nobody, not even his sister, was going to help him, Eugene was overwhelmed with humiliation. He awkwardly pulled up his torn pants, holding them together with one hand, and limped out the front door as fast as he could. Watching him leave, the family breathed a sigh of relief, feeling like they had just evicted a toxic waste dump. Arthur immediately ordered the butler, "Get rid of that sofa! Disinfect the entire living room! Open every window! The smell is still here!" The family couldn't help but glare at me. They knew damn well I pulled his pants down on purpose. I shrugged nonchalantly. "Why are you glaring at me? If I hadn't accidentally done that, none of you would have known his dirty secret. Give it a few days and maybe you'd all be his hospital buddies. Instead of thanking me, you blame me? Talk about biting the hand that feeds you." The family was left speechless. The phrase hospital buddies sent a terrifying shiver down their spines. Nobody wanted to argue with me. They hurried upstairs to change their clothes and reapply perfume. The 3 p.m. gala was still happening. At 3 p.m. the Lancaster corporate gala officially commenced. The venue was packed with the elite of the city's business world, all dressed in bespoke suits and designer gowns. Arthur and Evelyn stood at the entrance, alongside Lily, Chloe, and Mason, greeting the VIPs with polished smiles. I couldn't care less about the fake pleasantries. I grabbed a plate of hors d'oeuvres and sat alone on a plush sofa in the corner, scrolling through my phone. A few minutes later, a plump, shrewd-looking older man walked in, accompanied by a stunning young woman. It was Richard Winston, CEO of the massive Heaven and Earth Corp., and his daughter, Valerie Winston. The Lancaster family immediately swarmed them with enthusiastic greetings. The two families had been quietly discussing a strategic marriage alliance for months, the intended couple, Mason and Valerie. As they exchanged pleasantries, Valerie's eyes swept across the room and landed on me, chilling on the sofa. She scowled, her voice dripping with disgust. "Why did you let that trash picker kid come? This is a high-level corporate event. Does he even have the right to breathe the same air as us?" I looked up, met her gaze, and then looked at Mason. "Oh, Valerie, if only you knew." I was almost certain Mason had already compiled his secret blackmail folder on her. His phone was definitely loaded with highly entertaining, scandalous photos of this pure heiress. Hearing Valerie's insult, the Lancasters just forced awkward smiles. Nobody defended me. Frankly, they agreed with her. I was an embarrassment. Richard Winston, a seasoned veteran of the corporate world, noticed the awkward tension. Not knowing the full family dynamic, he quickly shushed his daughter to avoid unnecessary drama. As the venue filled up, Arthur took the stage, delivering a charismatic, welcoming speech to thunderous applause. Next up was Mason. He strode onto the stage, chin held high, looking every bit the confident, brilliant young executive. This was Arthur's test for him, a chance to prove his worth to the billionaire investors. On stage, Mason was eloquent and commanding. The crowd whispered in admiration. "What a brilliant young man. His future is limitless. Even though he's adopted, it looks like he'll be taking over the Lancaster empire." Richard and Valerie Winston watched from the front row, smiling proudly. They felt they had picked a winner for a son-in-law. While everyone was mesmerized by Mason, I quietly slipped backstage to the laptop controlling the projector. When the tech guy looked away, I casually pulled out Mason's USB drive, plugged in my phone, accessed his hidden photo vault, set a specific folder to autoplay slideshow, and plugged the laptop back into the massive LED screen. On stage, Mason was delivering a powerful conclusion. The crowd was silent, hanging on to his every word. But suddenly, the audience's expressions shifted from admiration to absolute horror, shock, and perverse amusement. Some people gasped. Dozens of people whipped out their phones and started recording. Mason smiled inwardly. I've captivated them completely. But then, he noticed Richard and Valerie's faces. They weren't smiling. They were pale, furious, and looked like they were going to murder him. They literally jumped out of their seats and charged the stage. From the front row, Arthur, Evelyn, and Lily started screaming in panic. Turn off the screen! Turn it off now! Mason, completely confused, turned around to look at the massive LED screen behind him. Instead of his corporate pie charts, the screen was displaying a slideshow of extremely explicit, scandalous photos. The star of the slideshow? Valerie Winston. There she was in various states of undress, looking heavily intoxicated, striking compromising poses with a revolving door of different men. The ballroom exploded into chaos. Is that Valerie Winston? Oh my God, it's the Winston heiress! I heard the Lancasters and Winstons were arranging a marriage. That's definitely cancelled now. Valerie stared at the screen, her legs giving out as she collapsed to her knees. She always thought of herself as a sophisticated elite. Sure, she partied hard, but it was just letting off steam. Now her wildest, most degenerate secrets were being broadcast in 4K to the wealthiest people in the city. Her reputation was instantly vaporized. Richard Winston's face was purple with rage. He was a ruthless businessman, but he had no idea how to salvage this. Mason stood frozen, his blood turning to ice. Why is my slideshow showing Valerie's photos? These pictures were his ultimate trump card, secretly gathered to blackmail and control Valerie after they married. How the hell did they end up on the main screen? Before he could process the disaster, a heavy fist slammed directly into his jaw. Crack! Richard Winston had reached the stage. Yo bastard, I'll kill you, he roared. How has the Winston family ever wronged you for you to humiliate us like this? I'm going to beat you to death! Mason, dazed by the punch, fell to the floor, but he was young and athletic. He quickly scrambled up and tried to defend himself. The CEO and the Golden Boy began wrestling and throwing punches on stage. Richard was older and quickly started losing stamina. Seeing Mason gaining the upper hand, Evelyn was about to rush up and stop the fight. But realizing her son was winning, she stopped, coldly watching the spectacle. Suddenly, Valerie let out a feral, blood-curdling scream. She picked up a heavy metal centerpiece from a table, sprinted up the stairs, and hurled it directly at the laptop. The screen finally went black, but it was too late. Dozens of guests already had the photos saved on their phones. The damage was permanent. Valerie dropped to her knees, sobbing hysterically. It's all your fault, Mason! She shrieked, launching herself at him. He'll kill you! She joined her father, throwing wild, vicious kicks and punches at Mason. With it now being a 2-on-1 fight, the Winstons quickly overpowered Mason. He was beaten to the ground, curling into a fetal position, covering his head as kicks rained down on him. The billionaire audience watched with morbid fascination, gossiping loudly. I can't believe the pure Winston girl is actually so wild. Pure? She's a total wreck, but hey, great figure. Mason is ruthless, though. Broadcasting her nudes to everyone? He didn't leave the Winstons a single way out. This kid is dangerous. We need to stay away from him. I casually leaned against a pillar near the stage, swapping camera angles on my phone, taking high-res, rapid-fire photos of Mason getting absolutely curb-stomped. Looking at the masterpiece gallery in my phone, I chuckled. Mason is so screwed. The Winstons are going to want his head on a spike. On stage, Mason's face was completely swollen, blood leaking from his nose. Richard and Valerie still weren't satisfied and were gearing up for another round of kicks. Arthur and Evelyn finally rushed the stage, pulling the Winstons back. Enough! Stop hitting him! Arthur yelled, restraining Richard. Richard, I understand why you're angry, but we can sit down and talk about this. Violence solves nothing, Richard sneered, spitting on the floor. The Lancaster family raised an absolute psychopath, and you want to talk? This isn't over, you just wait. Valerie glared at Arthur with pure hatred. If the Lancasters don't give me a satisfactory explanation, I will make you pay. With that, the Winstons grabbed their belongings and stormed out of the gala. Arthur watched them leave, a bitter, exhausted smile on his face. As a father, he couldn't deny that Richard's anger was 100% justified, but his disappointment in Mason was immeasurable. Back at the mansion, Arthur unleashed his fury on Mason. You have disappointed me beyond words, Arthur roared, glaring at Mason's bandaged, bruised face. Everything I invested in you, every expectation, you destroyed it today. I gave you the perfect platform. If you had just delivered a normal speech, your future would be set. But to vent some petty grudge, you publicly broadcast Valerie's private photos? You didn't just humiliate the Lancasters. You made a mortal enemy out of the Winstons. What the hell is wrong with you? Mason, wincing in pain, desperately tried to defend himself. Dad, I didn't put those photos up. My presentation was perfectly normal. Why would I be so stupid as to ruin Valerie in front of everyone? It doesn't benefit me at all. Someone framed me, Dad. You have to believe me. Evelyn immediately backed him up. Exactly, why would Mason do that? Someone definitely sabotaged him. Arthur frowned. Framed by who? Name them. Mason froze in a panic. His eyes darted around, and on instinct, he pointed a shaking finger at me, standing quietly in the corner. It was Leo. It has to be Leo. Mason gritted his teeth. He was jealous that I got the spotlight, so he set me up. When the Winstons were beating me on stage, Mom, Dad, and Lily were all trying to stop it. Only Leo was nowhere to be found. He must have been the one who messed with the laptop. Evelyn snapped her head toward me, furious. Leo, Mason is your brother. How could you be so vicious and frame him like that? I blinked innocently, pointing at myself. Wait, me? You're accusing me? Do you have proof? Because if you don't have proof, that's called slander, buddy. Mason laughed coldly. A desperate, cornered animal. Proof? Why don't you prove it wasn't you? If you weren't the one who did it, where were you hiding? Arthur's suspicious gaze shifted to me. In the past, he would have believed I was innocent, but lately I had been acting completely unhinged. I had even extorted $500,000 out of 4 dads. It was entirely possible I pulled off this sabotage. I chuckled, completely unbothered by their interrogation. Okay, let's play a game. If I produce concrete evidence proving you're slandering me, what's the payout, Mason? How are you going to compensate me? Mason froze, then gritted his teeth. If I'm wrong, I will give you the $500. Zero in my savings account, and from now on, my monthly allowance goes straight to you. But if you can't prove your innocence, it means you did it. And if you did it, you are going to kneel and apologize to the Winston family, pay me $500,000, and hand over your allowance to me forever. Hearing the terms of the bet, I smiled so hard my eyes turned into little crescents. Deal, a man's word is his bond. No backing out. Seeing my radiant, confident smile, a terrible sense of dread washed over Mason. He instantly regretted making the bet in front of Arthur. But if he backed down now, his credibility with Arthur would shatter completely. I smirked, pulled out my phone, and opened my photo gallery. Look closely, Mason. Here is my ironclad alibi. I flipped the phone screen around. It was a crystal clear, high-definition photo of Richard Winston, repeatedly punching Mason in the face. Richard's foot was planted on Mason's stomach, and Valerie was stomping on his head. An incredibly brutal, humiliating shot. Mason's face turned white as a sheet. He stared at the screen, trembling. I swiped to the next photo. Richard was pulling Mason by the hair, winding up for an uppercut, while Valerie was stepping on his ankle like she was putting out a cigarette. Mason ground his teeth so hard they nearly cracked. I swiped again. The next photo was even worse. Richard stomping on his hand, Valerie kicking him squarely in the glutes. Every single photo documented the entire process of Mason getting absolutely destroyed, shot from multiple highly artistic angles. It was a masterpiece of photojournalism. Mason's eyes turned blood red as he glared at me. Leo! You stood right below the stage watching me get beaten half to death, and you took dozens of photos? Why didn't you stop them? You are a monster. I calmly slipped my phone back into my pocket. Well, this proves I was in the audience the whole time. You just didn't notice me because you were a little preoccupied. So Mason, admit it. You falsely accused me. I stretched lazily and held out my hand. Oh right, hand over the $500,000. Mason suffered a complete mental collapse, teetering on the edge of insanity. You watched me get beaten, took pictures of it, and now you want to take $500,000 from me. Leo, do you have no soul? I shrugged, looking incredibly bored. Don't try to change the subject. A bet is a bet. You can't back out now. Mason's eyes were so red he looked like he was going to cry blood. He was furious to the point of exploding. Just then I tilted my head, gave him a wicked smile, and delivered the final fatal blow. By the way, Mason, aside from playing the clown today, do you also have a side gig as a punching bag? What did you say? Mason roared. Unable to control his rage, he lunged off the sofa toward me, but his battered, bruised body couldn't handle the sudden movement. He lost his balance, stumbled, and face-planted spectacularly back onto the cushions. The sight was so pathetic I burst into a fit of hysterical laughter. Mason, you really do look like a flipped turtle right now. Hearing that, the blood rushed straight to Mason's head. He tried to scramble up again, but his awkward, flailing limbs only made him look exactly like a turtle stuck on its shell. Even Arthur, who was furious at both of us, couldn't suppress his reaction. Watching Mason flail helplessly, his mouth twitched and he actually had to bite his lip to stop himself from laughing out loud.